Welcome to the 50th episode of Nick and Dave Deep Dive the Metaverse, a podcast exploring cult classics, subculture, and geek media. I'm Nick.
And I'm Dave.
And we will be your tour guides for this deep dive of John Carpenter's 1981 satirical dystopian thriller, Escape from New York.
And this is the beginning of our new Cyberpunk series.
Yes, this is a new format for us, so let's talk about that. We're doing 10 episodes.
Each one covers a different movie, and we're going chronological order. And you mostly populated this list. How'd you get the information? How'd you choose these movies?
This is the top 10 highest rated cyberpunk films, according to Letterboxd. And then I double checked those ratings against Rotten Tomatoes, and they were close to identical, and so it felt like a really solid list. We kind of called in a substitution on one of these movies because we've already covered it, but we're mostly sticking to that Letterboxd list.
Yeah, and so we're doing this all chronological. So Escape from New York from 1981 is definitely kind of a proto-cyberpunk.
Yeah, I was thinking if you compare cyberpunk to punk rock, this is the Stooges' Raw Power to Blade Runner's Ramones Self-Titled.
Yeah, so I was actually comparing it to black metal, and I was saying this is Bathory.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't sound like other black metal bands, but it's in there.
Yeah, it's got a lot of the pieces are there, but they're just not all together yet the same way.
You have some fascism, some dystopian nihilism, some craziness. I don't know.
Yeah, a lot of the cyber is missing. This is a pretty analog movie.
Yeah, it's like a post-apocalyptic punk movie, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. But it's definitely, it's a pioneer of cyberpunk. And William Gibson, the famous author, he credits this as one of a heavy influence on him, specifically for his 1984 book, Neuromancer.
Yeah.
So it's important to the genre, even if it's not... it's not what you would consider to be super cyberpunky in and of itself.
So Proto-Cyberpunk or Cyberprotopunk.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I think I like Proto-Cyber better than Cyberproto.
Yeah. So do we want to talk about the 10 movies or?
Yeah, let's go into that. So in 1981, we have Escape from New York.
Okay.
Shortly thereafter, 1982, we have Blade Runner, which this is probably where I would have started the list just if I was spitballing it. If I didn't know, if I hadn't checked any online resources, Blade Runner to me was kind of the founder.
It really is like...
It's like the Black Sabbath.
It's where if compare it to that, like if Escape from New York is Deep Purple, then Blade Runner is Black Sabbath. It's like, now this is metal. This really is metal.
Yeah, for real. And then in 87 we get RoboCop, and I know that's a big favorite of yours.
Yes, that's one of my top 5 all-time favorite movies, and so is the next one, number 4.
Incoming 5-star rating, I'm sure, from Nick.
Probably. If it's not, I'm going to be disappointed, but I haven't seen it for a while.
Yeah, me neither. 88, we have Akira, which is animated, so that's awesome.
That's another one of my top 5 favorite movies, so I'm super stoked. Blade Runner is one of your big ones.
Excuse me. I just got over the plague, everybody. So if you hear
not the COVID plague, but
just the summer flu that's going around annoyingly. So episode 5 of the series from 1995, we're going to have 12 Monkeys.
Yeah, and that's the substitution there. In the spot on the list was Ghost in the Shell, but we already devoted a good 2 hours to that.
Yeah, we did a head-to-head on animated versus live-action remake. So if you haven't listened to that one, it's actually... I liked that episode, so go check it out.
Cool. And then number 6 is Dark City, which I have not seen.
I've never seen it either.
Oh, I've seen it, but I have not seen it since it was new.
So I've never seen it at all.
That's, what's his name? Alex Proyas that directed The Crow. That was his follow-up to The Crow.
Oh, okay. Cool.
So, yeah, I'm stoked to see this movie again with a bigger repertoire of movies under my belt. Like, I think I'll get more out of it now than I did then.
Yeah. And then number 7 on 1999 is The Matrix, which has to be in a Cyberpunk collection.
And I'm glad actually to get to do this because we did our Matrix Resurrections episode, and the whole time I was kind of thinking, I wish we were doing the first Matrix.
Yeah, me too. Because it was like, why are we doing the Matrix rehashed instead of The Matrix?
The first one, which, so number 8, Minority Report. That one I've never seen.
I've seen it, and it's good.
Yeah.
So I'm glad it's on here.
That's one of those movies that entered the lexicon. Like anytime people are talking about predictive justice or profiling, they say, oh, they're going to do a Minority Report. So it's a pretty influential movie.
Yeah, it's a good one. And then after that, we have from 2012, we have Dredd.
Yes, the good Judge Dredd movie.
I never saw this because I write off comic book things.
Yeah, this is this is your kind of.
Is it cyberpunk? I mean, I would have lumped this into like superhero nonsense.
The setting of Judge Dredd Mega City 1 is definitely a cyberpunk city.
Well, I mean, just the name Mega City, that's just cyberpunk in general.
Yeah.
And then our last one on the list is Blade Runner 2049 from 2017. And I'm glad this is on the list. I really enjoyed that movie.
Yeah. So, I'm looking forward to all of these. This is, I think, of course, as they're the highest rated in their genre, this is really like a stacked list of all kind of classics and like cult classics.
Yeah, and we talked about why we're going to this format in the last episode. But if you weren't listening, basically we decided that we wanted to try to stick with some themes. Rather than have it be just, oh, what do you want to do next? And then just have random this and that. We wanted there to be kind of some arcs, not like a season, but more like a series of movies that all go together. And then we can kind of sum it up at the end and put a bow on it and then start a new one.
Yeah. If you looked at our first 49 episodes, I assure you, it's not completely random how these things were chosen, but it would appear to be to an outside observer.
And there is quite a bit of, what do we like? Let's do that.
Yeah, there is that sort of, we finish an episode and then we're like, what's the next one going to be?
And we have a little bank of ideas, and we just choose the one we liked. And this is better though, because we're going to have a lot of different series coming up. If you have an idea for a series that you'd like us to do, go ahead and tweet at us or message us or whatever, and we will add that to the hopper of ideas, because we haven't even decided what series we're going to do next, because that's a few months from now.
Yeah, I think as of right now, aren't we kind of leaning Tarantino?
Yeah, we got Tarantino on the mind. We always have vampires. We always have werewolves. I would love to do a swords and sorcery.
Oh, I'd like to do that too.
I'd love to do a post-apoc like Mad Max style stuff. Zombies.
Yeah,
we got a lot on the mind. Some really great ideas, because there are some franchises out there that are really excellent. You don't need the whole franchise. Like, for example, The Matrix.
Right.
You could just do The Matrix and Mad Max. You don't need to do all of them. You could just do the best one, which is probably the second one.
Road Warrior? Yeah. Not Fury Road?
Oh man, Fury Road's so good.
I think if we were to pull a list, and let's not go too deep into the speculation, but I think if we pulled a list of post-apocalyptic movies, like the top 10, it would probably end up a little bookended by Mad Max, the way this did by Blade Runner.
That's probably
where you do the first Blade Runner towards the beginning and then the most recent one at the end.
That's it. That's a good idea.
Excuse our cats, please.
Yes, this little feller, his name is Jet. He's a real nice boy, but he is a talker. So yeah, what have you been up to since we last met? We took a month off, or not a month. We went a month between episode. Drops. Yeah, we skipped our July 15th drop because of travels and the like.
Yeah.
So what have you been up to?
So my travel took me to Denver, Colorado. That's where I went. I road tripped down there. I know you did that drive recently, but in the snow and under
blizzard,
duress. Yeah. I got to enjoy it quite a bit more and stretch it out. Stopped in Ogden, Utah on the way down, and in Boise, Idaho on the way back.
I stopped in Ogden, Utah a long time ago when I was driving to Texas from here, but it was only because my car broke down in Ogden.
Ogden is a good place to get stuck for a little bit.
It's so bad.
It's a oasis in Utah. I mean, honestly, I've been through that city 3 times now, and I've had nothing but positive experiences there. And it's changed my kind of view on Utah as a state. You know, when you actually stop and kind of like talk to people and stuff, and they become real people and not caricatures, they're like, oh wow, so there's actually cool, decent people here. That's not what I imagine. I just think of I don't know, people that want to kill us in the Northwest.
So you went down to Colorado and came back, and how long were you there?
Just for a week.
Okay, that's cool.
And we had the pretense of going down there was wife Lisa had a family reunion in kind of in a resort town outside of Denver. And then we just stayed on the rest of the week after everyone went home and went into Denver proper and just got to enjoy, my friend Devin lives down there. He says Denver's is Portland without a vitamin D deficiency. It's like,
that's funny.
It's just sort of like, it's sunnier and healthier and,
it's also hella snowier.
Yeah. In the wintertime, but I was there in the summertime. So it was beautiful. It actually rained though quite a bit. But it would it's just sort of like monsoon downpour and then it's sunny again. It just comes and goes.
So how was the altitude for you?
I didn't sleep well on the trip. I don't know if that's altitude related.
Could be.
It might, yeah. But otherwise it doesn't seem to bother me. And I actually like the dry climate a lot. I feel like my skin is better down there. Like I don't feel so, I don't know, oily and fungusy and all
so
that.
So your moss dried up.
My moss dried up. Yeah, and I was like, that's right. I'm supposed to be from the desert lands.
yeah, because you were born in California, right?
Yeah. So it's like that atmosphere suits me. I like it down there.
Nice.
What about you? Where you went to a couple places?
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a haze, right? I went to the southern Oregon coast down by Gold Beach.
Nice.
And I was there for an SCA event, a big old war, and that was a heck of a lot of fun.
That's the big, like your big like army versus army kind of war, right?
It's in the scope of SCA wars. It's like it's not the biggest tier, and it's not even the next biggest tier, but it's just under that. You know, there's a couple hundred people on the field at a time, which is pretty legit. And I had a lot of fun fighting and running around with my friends and doing all that. And then we've gone to several other SCA events where we ended up going up to Spokane or a little north of Spokane.
Okay.
And that was nice. I always forget that Spokane's actually a pretty nice city.
Spokane's a pretty cool town too. Yeah.
It was funny because we were driving through it, and in order to get to it was like outside, like north of Spokane, we had to get off the highway and go take like kind of a surface street to get over to get to the highway north. And we ended up stopping for gas in downtown, and it was sketchy. It was like sketchy as any downtown,
urban downtown
in downtown Portland, anywhere or whatever. And I was like, okay, so this is a real city. They have some shady folks too. And then you drive out of that area, and it just gets instantly nice again. And I was like, okay. Yeah, this is weird.
Yeah.
But I liked it over there in Eastern Washington.
A lot of Seattle refugees end up in Spokane as people get priced out of the metro.
Yeah, it's nice over there. You can get some really nice real estate for a fairly reasonable price.
Washington reasonable.
Yeah, Washington reasonable. We're not talking about like most places in the country. Washington has jacked prices because of all the big companies. But I guess those big salaries make people have
they want to move
living.
Here. Yeah.
So, all right, that's basically all I've been up to, aside from getting sick for the last like several days.
Yeah, that's no good. But at least it's not COVID. So that's lucky.
We're about to go to Crater Lake the day after tomorrow. But and we were gonna go to Yosemite after that, but it's on fire.
Oh no, really? I'd say I'm out of the loop. I guess I've just been, the news is, the news is nearly as bleak as this movie is. So it's like,
so we canceled the second leg of our trip. And so we're going to Crater Lake, and we're going to enjoy that for like 3 or 4 days, and then come home, and then there might be another camping trip somewhere after that. But we're going to be back home instead of just going straight from Crater Lake directly to Yosemite.
Okay, well that's too bad. But Crater Lake is pretty cool too.
Yeah, it's pretty legit. The weather's going to be not as hot. It's going to be warm for there, but not as hot as here. So
so you get to escape a little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah. Well, cool. Maybe we should roll for initiative.
Yeah, let's roll for initiative. This has been a pretty long intro already. 11.
4. You go first.
All right. So there was a couple of things that went down at San Diego Comic-Con, and I'm sure you're probably going to talk about all that nonsense about the Marvel Phase 6 or whatever. Who are the new Avengers? I don't care. I'm not bringing that up.
Don't you talk shit like that and then immediately bring up Dungeons and Dragons.
That's true. No, I didn't bring up Dungeons and Dragons. I should though. I'm bringing up the House of the Dragon trailer and the season 2 Wheel of Time teaser that they put out.
Okay, I haven't watched that.
So they put out a House of the Dragon extended trailer. It's like over 3 minutes long, and it's legit. Like you see dragons.
The dragons look dope.
You see Targaryens. You see all of the other people. It just looks really cool. Like the tone is really good. It's got that high HBO polish, but it doesn't have that D&D season 8 stank on it.
Right. That's D&D is what are their names?
I can't remember. The two guys who made Game of Thrones. And you know what? They did a good job for 6 seasons. So
as long as they had the books to lead them, they did fine.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm excited by that. And then the season 2 Wheel of Time teaser, it was like a behind the scenes teaser thing where they're showing all these different screenshots. We've watched some analysis videos to see all the character development and this various stuff. It's just looks really cool.
So it wasn't actually like a trailer or a teaser though. It was
not for Wheel of Time. It was a behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes. Okay.
Yeah. So you have cameramen in the shots, and there's like people riding horses, being with a truck driving beside them with a camera jib.
Well, that's cool. I might. That's on YouTube. I assume. Yeah, I'll look that up too.
So how about you? What have you got?
Oh, my first thing, and since I'm shocked that you didn't mention this, they dropped a trailer for Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves.
Yeah,
which you've mentioned this movie before. It's directed by John Francis Daley and Jonathan Goldstein, who they directed Game Night and one other movie. A couple of young guys. They don't have a ton of movies, under their belt, but they're legit nerds. And I was pleasantly surprised by this trailer.
I'm cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, it looks very, Marvel-y. Like it looks like it's. I can tell the elevator pitch is like it's like Guardians of the Galaxy in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
and that's how they pitched it. And
yeah, because like the lead guy, he's just Star-Lord, but instead he's a bard.
Yeah. Who Star-Lord is basically the bard in the Guardians game. So it totally fits. And if it's just that, I'll be satisfied with it.
Guardians of the Galaxy was good. The first one, I mean, they've all been good.
Yeah, that's one of my top 3 favorite Marvel movies. So
that's a good druid turns into an owl bear.
I know this is
fucking dope.
It's some source of controversy, isn't it?
It's that's technically not within the rules, but then shortly after the trailer dropped, Chris Perkins, one of the lead developers for Dungeons and Dragons, he tweeted. He said, "If you play Dungeons and Dragons at my table and you're a druid, you can turn into an owl bear."
Yeah,
and so. What my speculation and one of the many nerd theories is there will be a content drop with this movie that brings anything that you see in the movie into the game.
Yeah,
because they put out PDFs they're called Unearthed Arcana. They're like rules testing documents where they just put out fun stuff. They'll put out a PDF where a druid can turn into an owlbear. Yeah. Why not?
I mean, why wouldn't you?
It's fun. It's cool.
And it's just good marketing. And an owlbear's not even that tough of a monster, really.
No, not. I mean, it's a little tougher than what you can normally turn into, but there's no reason not to have it. It's just for fun.
Yeah, and this is the cast. It's Chris Pine, Michelle Rodriguez, Regé-Jean Page, Justice Smith, Sophia Lillis, and Hugh Grant. That's a strong cast. A lot of money went into this, and I think it'll be pretty good. I'm not expecting to be totally blown away, but I'm expecting to have a good time.
I expect a 3.5-star movie.
Yep. There we go. We're in agreement. What's your next piece?
So this is just a little announcement for a little show that I've been following for 5 seasons. Rick and Morty.
Okay.
Season 6. They finally released a premiere date. They announced Sunday, September 4th. Season 6 will be out, and they made a lot of piss jokes in the announcement. I'm still not bored with that series. No. I know there are some people that are like, I'm over it. Rick is lame. No, it's still funny. It's still smart.
Rick and Morty is one of those shows where the fans make you want to reject it, right?
Sure.
It attracts kind of the worst sort of toxic dudes, internet bros or whatever. But
they will doff their fedora
exactly.
and talk about Rick and Morty.
Yeah, it's like, what you don't understand is it's about string theory or whatever. And so anyways, Rick and Morty is good regardless of if the fans suck.
Yeah.
So I'm stoked for that.
Yeah, there's bands like that too. So we don't need to get into that, but I don't let the fans ruin it for me. So if you're a Rick and Morty fan, put it on your calendar. You don't have too much longer to wait. So what's up for you?
Next up, and this is another one that I'm surprised that you haven't mentioned, or maybe okay. Actually, I'm going to skip because I think you might get to this.
I don't think I will.
You don't? You will? Okay. Interview with a Vampire dropped their trailer.
I didn't. The thing is I watched that and I love Grey Worm. And so I liked it, but for some reason that just didn't register to me as news.
It didn't move me at all. I'll be honest. I was like,
I like the actor a lot. I'm just everything I've seen from this show in the pre-production has given me 3-star vibes.
Yeah.
It should be better than that.
That's what I thought. And yeah, we're on the same page. I expected you to mention it just because you're such a fan, but I guess that sort of ho-hum feeling that the trailer gives is why it didn't make it on your list.
It didn't make me go wowie zowie, I can't wait for that. Whereas things like House of the Dragon and Wheel of Time and Rick and Morty, I was like, yes.
Okay, so then I will brush past that and go to the first thing I saw from Comic-Con that really did get my attention, and that was the teaser for Sandman.
Okay, I didn't see that.
That looks so good, and I'm very stoked for this series. Let's see here. It is coming to Netflix on August 5th. So
it's not a movie, it's a series.
It's a series,
okay.
Yeah.
I'm way more into a series than a movie, and I realize a series is usually just a 10-hour movie cut up, but I almost always like a series better.
Well, I mean, it just suits Sandman because it was a monthly comic book, and with different arcs, that have been collected into these graphic novels. It's episodic by its nature, and this is the best way, I think, to tell these stories.
Sure.
And Tom Sturridge just seems excellent as Morpheus, and Gwendolyn Christie as Lucifer, and and so many great cast members, more than I'm gonna get into. But it was the first thing I saw out of Comic-Con that I was like, oh, this looks incredible. I'm very stoked to see it.
So I was searching for news, and I couldn't find anything, and I did come across an article that was like, who are going to be the next phase Avengers, who's going to be on the Avengers, and I was just looking at that list, and I was like, what a bunch of junior varsity pissers this is, and so I I got down on comic stuff, so I didn't even pay attention at all. But I'm glad you brought up Sandman because I think that's really cool. So I have one more thing, and it's just a couple of new metal album releases that maybe the divers want to check out.
Okay.
I chose some, I would say, less obscure titles.
Okay.
We have, and these are both out on, I just got two of them. They're both out on August 5th. So a few days after this drops, Amon Amarth, The Great Heathen Army.
Ooh. Are we going to go see that live? Because
I'm down.
Oh, yeah.
Have
Okay.
the tickets out yet?
Yeah.
Because I haven't bought one yet.
Okay.
Let's do that.
We should go see that.
I liked the last Amon Amarth because it sounded like the one before it, which sounded like the one before it, because they do one thing and they do it fucking well.
Yeah.
And that's just that epic sounding Viking metal with this kind of got a tough guy vibe. It's just, it's a really good band to just put on and, I don't know, just enjoy.
It's good gym music for sure.
Yeah,
like
for sure.
It's something to listen to while you're
I've
pumping your
been going
guns.
to the gym and I've been working with a buddy, so I haven't had headphones in because we've been talking, and so it's really changed the vibe of the gym because I'm not like jamming. And then the other album,
And bring your own speaker in.
well, there's a gym. It's a small town gym. It's not, this is not a chain, and you can just go up to the music iPad that controls it and change it, and no one will care. So sometimes if we're the only ones in there, we'll put on like black metal or whatever.
Yeah.
But usually when there's a bunch of people in there, we'll just put it on like the generic like rock station on Spotify or whatever.
That's fair.
Because we know the owner's a really cool guy. He wants it to be friendly for everyone to come in, but he doesn't care if we're the only ones in there. He's down with metal. So
Yeah.
But anyway,
Amon Amarth's good gym music. Hatebreed is kind of the best gym music.
the last one is Soulfly. They've got a new album called Totem coming out on August 5th, and I haven't been on the Soulfly train for a while. I was really in love with that very first album they put out. It's still amazing. But I gotta say, every collab that Max is involved in, it's always really good. Like, I like his stuff. So I'm gonna check out this new Soulfly album.
And that's, we went on their first tour when they came out with that first album.
And they played Roots.
Yeah, because it was at that point, there wasn't enough Soulfly songs to fill a set.
Yeah.
So it was Soulfly, Sepultura, Nail Bomb.
Yeah.
And, since then, he has a bunch of like Cavalera Conspiracy and is Giraffe Tongue Orchestra? Is that him?
Giraffe Tongue Orchestra is no, that's actually William Duvall. It's
Killer Be Killed.
Killer Be Killed.
Okay,
and Killer Be Killed and Giraffe Tongue Orchestra actually are both amazingly good bands. If you haven't checked out either of those super groups, they're really worth it. But yeah, I'm a big fan of this. I think Dino Cazares is playing live guitars on this Soulfly tour.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, he's buddies with Max, and they both live down there, like Phoenix and LA. And he
Arizona.
played on the last thing that Max did live. He was with him. So I believe that the Soulfly tour will have Max on it too when that happens after the album drops. So I'll probably go to that too.
Cool. I'm down for Soulfly too. That's a good time.
That's just good vibes.
I have a big Sepultura patch on the back of my battle vest too.
Nice.
So I rep for the Cavalera brothers.
All right. So you have anything else?
I've got a couple more things.
Okay.
Because I watched kind of as the different panels were going on at Comic-Con, and Marvel was we're coming out with this movie and this movie, and I was like, yeah, that's cool. Guardians 3, that's cool. I like those movies, and I was just not like moved until Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. They dropped the trailer for that, and the shit moved me.
Oh, did it?
It's very moving. It's I think this is going to be a really, really good movie.
Who's the new Black Panther?
Unrevealed. They're not recasting T'Challa.
So he dies.
He dies in the Marvel universe.
Does he die off screen, or did he get Thanos?
No, I mean he did get Thanos, but then he came back.
Okay.
But then I think he's going to. Just like Chadwick did in real life, he's going to die from cancer.
Oh, okay.
And this movie is in the aftermath of that
his funeral.
Yeah, and then, well, I mean, but it wouldn't be a very fun comic book movie if it was just a funeral. The Atlanteans invade Wakanda.
Oh no!
Yeah, so we've got Prince Namor
Jesus
in there, and it looks epic though. This movie looks really good. And then after watching this and I got all stoked on it, then I went and watched all the stuff that I was like, I'm just gonna skip this and not watch any of it. Mm-hmm. So Wakanda Forever was Shouldn't
you have Aquaman in there if you have Namor coming?
They actually my next thing we'll talk about Aquaman, because there was something interesting about that. They're going far to distance Namor from Aquaman, since they have essentially the same origin story. Yeah. And it is Aquaman that stole the story from Namor, not the other way around.
Okay.
Namor predates him. But they're not calling it Atlantis. They're calling it, it's an Aztec thing, Talocan, which is something from Aztec mythology. It's one of the planes of the afterlife for people that die from water-related deaths.
Okay.
Like people that died in floods and things like that. So the ancient city of Talocan is the sunken city rather than, the Greco-Roman Atlantis.
Okay.
And they look all Aztec and everything. Like they're themed Aztec.
Neat.
Yeah, it looks super dope.
Anything else good on the list?
No, the other thing, just briefly, I want to talk about the things that were conspicuous in their absence from Comic-Con. The big rumors had been, one, that Henry Cavill was going to show up at the WB panel and announce a new Superman movie. Didn't happen. And everyone at the WB panel was dodging Henry Cavill questions very conspicuously. Like, it was like...
They're like, next.
Yeah, they're like, where's Henry Cavill? And they go, well, Henry Cavill is the Superman of this generation. And anyways, we're very excited about, and
so they're not saying he's not with us anymore?
No.
They're not saying we've recast Superman, we got a new Superman?
No, but they're not. He was not there, and they did not announce a new movie. And similarly, everyone thought that they were going to announce the X-Men on the Marvel panel, and they did not. There's some empty dates on the calendar that you're like, well, maybe here or here, that might happen. But they didn't announce that. And both of these, the big rumor is they're both contractual problems.
Oh.
One,
actors?
That Henry Cavill is too locked up in his Netflix contract, and he's actually not allowed to do anything with anyone else.
Oh.
I haven't been able to find like real proof of that, but it is...
He's got that Witcher money though.
Yeah. Basically, the story is that when he re-upped for The Witcher, Netflix locked him in on an exclusive where he can do Netflix movies like Enola Holmes, and he can do Netflix shows like The Witcher, but WB can't have it. Yeah, they just own him until this contract is up.
All right.
And so I can't find confirmation, but it's seeming plausible the way he just seems to work for Netflix. They just have him. And then I heard this morning the reason why Marvel is being so cagey about the X-Men is similarly the last group of X-Men, their contracts don't expire until 2025.
Oof.
And so they can't recast new people until the previous cast contracts expire.
Oh, that's lame.
So
that was not really the best, right?
Yeah. No, those movies kind of got less good as they went on.
They need to just make a new Wolverine movie with X-23 as Wolverine.
That would be dope. I'm down for that.
And just call it a day. I mean, I don't need the rest of the X-Men.
And that would actually be contractually, if the rumors are true, that would be contractually acceptable from the deal.
Because she's under contract.
Because she's already part of that Fox deal.
And yeah, and she was the best one of that generation.
Fingers crossed for that, but I don't think that's happening. No.
They would have leaked that. They would have hyped that.
That's all I got.
All right, so let's go ahead and take a quick break. Oh, no, we got podcast fuel. Let's get into
the
this.
podcast fuel, yes.
So while he's pulling that up, we've got Dystopia from Grains of Wrath. Grains of Wrath is a Camas, Washington brewery, and Dystopia is basically their flagship IPA.
Yeah.
I've had this a ton of times just because I go to Grains of Wrath pretty regularly.
I haven't had it. At least according to my Untapped. It is a 6.7 ABV Northwest IPA using Simcoe, Citra, and Mosaic hops. I can see why this is their flagship. This is the sort of Northwest IPA that everyone loves.
Yeah, it's legit. It's not so hoppy that you're like, ugh.
No,
it's hoppy enough that you just you like it. If you're an IPA person, this is very good.
It's got that. It's like piney, and then I guess a little pineapple-y, like more pine than pineapple, but not so much pine that you feel like you're licking like tree sap.
Yeah, I don't like the floorboards IPAs, as I call them.
Right.
It's not my thing.
Quite tasty.
All right, so let's go ahead and take a short break, and then we'll get back and jump into Escape from New York.
All right, welcome back, divers. Let's get into Escape from New York, 1981, John Carpenter.
So this movie opens up with the longest credit roll in the history of man, with kind of almost an 8-bit synth soundtrack.
That's my first note. Is I love John Carpenter's music. Yeah,
the thing about this movie and the soundtrack is, it almost feels like it's just like an ambient part of it. It's like it's not layered on top of. It's a part of. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing.
It lives inside the scene.
You have when your director and your composer is the same person.
Yeah,
it's like I think he's thinking of his compositions as he's shooting scenes. Like he's probably thinking of motifs and things like that. He worked with Alan Howarth on this score, and Howarth had suggested, we should press an LP of this. And Carpenter's like, who would want to listen to this? But it's crazy. Like his music is such a part of his movies, but I think he just thought, I just do this because it's cheaper, Then I don't have to pay a composer. I just make my own music.
Yeah, I mean, and it's good. It's I say this about anytime we watch an old movie, like something from the 80s or before, that they do these long credit rolls in the beginning. It's just not present in modern movies. It just gets you right into the shit in modern movies.
That really ended in the 2000s, because it's present like in the early, like I think The Matrix has one. Yeah, The Matrix definitely has one. The first X-Men movie has one, and then like as you transitioned out of the 90s into the 2000s, these opening credits just went away.
Yeah, and it's interesting. And then we get like a prologue. This is like a book, right?
Right.
They need to explain the setting. And so they have a tell, don't show moment where this narrator is like, it's 1988. And crime has increased by 400%.
Well, he doesn't read it to you. No, it's on this. It's like Star Wars. It's a crawl. It doesn't move though. It's just
I don't know. And it's just like, and they're like, and there's all out war. There's a war with an alliance with China and the Soviet Union, and the United States government has turned the most expensive real estate in the world into a prison.
Yeah,
that would never happen.
It's something that only makes sense when it was written in the late 1970s, when Lower New York actually looked like a war zone, abandoned buildings everywhere.
Why don't we just make this a prison? It's already that way anyway.
Yeah. And this is very much of that time, right? Like when it seems like New York City's just been abandoned, and you have like the Scorsese, like Taxi Drivers, not too much before this. And like this idea that New York is just gone feral and is, been abandoned by the government. And it's like, let's take it to the most absurd conclusion. They just wall it off and make it into a prison.
Put a 50-foot wall concrete wall around, and they put mines on all the bridges. Why didn't they just take down the bridges so people couldn't leave?
I don't know. I don't know. So that we have a bridge to drive across at the end.
Yeah. And it's interesting. There's like riverboats patrolling, and there's helicopters, and it says that all crime just has one punishment. You're just taken to the island, and then you're left there forever.
Yeah.
And there's no government, there's no wardens, nothing.
Yeah. This is very much the premise of the Arkham games. If you play those games, is that all of Gotham City, the island, the little archipelago that makes up Gotham City, has been walled off, and the whole thing is a prison, and you're just, instead of Snake Plissken, you're Batman running around inside of that.
I'd rather be Snake Plissken.
He gets to shoot people.
Yeah, so I mean, that's sort of the opening narration or opening prologue, and then it kind of cuts to you see guards walking a wall, and you get a city view of New York. You see the Twin Towers, very iconic. You youngsters out there used to be these two buildings that were the same height in New York. They're not there anymore.
Yeah. And we get one of only two actual scenes that were shot in New York City. And this is at the base of the Liberty Island, which is where basically the control hub for the prison island is set up. And so there's this shot, and then towards the end of the movie, there's like a morning, like a dawn shot of the island in the distance. And those are the only two things they shot actually in New York. Everything else is either in St. Louis or in sound stages in LA.
Interesting. They used Missouri as their on site.
Yeah, because there was several blocks in Missouri where there had been fires and stuff, and essentially you had abandoned buildings of kind of the right period in architecture that they could just do whatever they wanted to because they're going to get torn down anyway.
Well, that's really opportunistic of them.
Let's come in here and take advantage of this underprivileged city. Yeah. It's very in theme with the movie.
Pretty much. So you get this scene. I guess they're just trying to demonstrate what happens. Like there's some people paddling off the island, and they're trying to escape on a raft, and they end up getting blown up by a helicopter.
Yeah.
And I think this was just sort of a demonstration of what happens.
Right. It reminded me of Orwell's 1984, because there's that scene where they shoot the refugees as they're trying to escape North Africa or whatever, and it was very much like this is an Orwellian society. Nothing is tolerated.
Yeah, I like that some of the scene on Liberty Island where you see like this is like a sinister fascist. Like kind of a grim regime,
right?
These they call them United States Police, like U.S. police force. I don't know.
Yeah, it is very fascistic, and we're seeing these are all staples of this genre.
Yeah.
This is if you play the Cyberpunk video game.
Oh yeah.
It's a lot like the NUSA, right? It's very very similar. This idea that, for people that were clued in, this right-wing bend that America has been on for the last 40 years was very clear to people in the latter half of the 20th century.
Oh yeah, they were very much aware of it, and they were making dystopian fiction about it. And so basically, you're on this Liberty Island, and you see a guy get taken off a bus, escorted by these armored, like jackbooted thug police, and it's Snake Plissken, and he's being led through these halls. And I love how over the intercom a voice says, "You have the option to terminate and cremate on the premises."
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh man, that is great."
It's so good, and that's why I called it a satirical dystopia, because there is comedy here, like intentional comedy. It's not. I always had the impression as a kid that this was like a tough guy movie, but there's much more. Like, this movie is smarter than it's acting like it is.
I think this is kind of a tough guy, grim action movie, but it's actually kind of a black comedy.
Yeah, for sure.
I thought that there were some moments in here that are they're unbelievable and ridiculous.
Well, our hero, Snake Plissken, Kurt Russell does a Clint Eastwood impression through the entire movie.
Yeah, and I love it. He has the eye patch, and he's got, man, what was with those like urban camo pants and the beat up leather jacket? It's such a caricature.
I do. I love everything about the Plissken look. Mm-hmm. It's strong. I love the.
That would be a sick cosplay.
Yeah, and you don't see a lot of Snake Plisskens. I wonder how much those boots with the metal shin guards cost.
I know. I actually commented on those in my notes that I love those. Those are like metal shin plated, almost motocross boots.
Yeah,
very cool. I think a Snake Plissken cosplay would be legit.
Okay, my hair's almost there. I'm almost to that length. Just need to get the eye patch. So I was totally shocked when we saw Snake get off of the helicopter, because I didn't realize the version of this movie I had previously seen was the extended cut. Because I was expecting to see the bank robbery that gets Snake Plissken arrested, and it's not here.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, so that's in the extended cut, and that's out of print. You can't get it anymore.
Oh, man, because he robbed the Federal Reserve.
He robbed the Federal Reserve, and it is a long, boring scene that I understand why they cut. Yeah. It's a lot of running down hallways. So I get why they cut it.
Imagine you're an actor and you just do so much work in these tedious ass scenes, and then you don't even make it.
It's tough because this is a brisk movie. It's only an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So a lot of stuff has been removed from it. I think for the good of storytelling. But yeah, that's all hard work, And if you were Snake's his co-conspirators that were robbing the bank with him or whatever, your shit's on the cutting room floor. You show up to the premiere and you never see yourself on the screen.
You just don't get invited to the premiere.
You're like, I was in this movie. You're like, no, you weren't.
Yeah, no. Then a limo pulls up and this guy gets out and he's wearing like a jumpsuit with like epaulets. It's like a military onesie. And it's Hauk, the warden.
Police commissioner.
The commissioner.
Yeah, played by the great Lee Van Cleef. The villain of like every Clint Eastwood movie.
Yeah, didn't his villain character in one of the movies wear an eye patch?
Probably,
yeah.
He's played a lot of desperados and stuff over the years.
Yeah, and he's actually sort of a pseudo good guy in this movie. Sort of. He's a fascist, but he's trying to rescue the president. I don't know.
Yeah. So let's get to that. We hear about a small jet in trouble over restricted airspace.
Yeah.
And then it turns out that's Air Force One, and it's been hijacked by leftist guerrillas, and they're sticking
the National Liberation Front of America.
Yeah. They're sticking it to the man. They're going to blow up Air Force One. And our president, he's like, well, there's nothing we can do. Put me in the pod.
Put me in the red escape egg. I'm going to bomb out of here, bitches.
Yeah, he like basically, what does he do? He doesn't say good luck, but he's like, basically, he's just like, I'm sorry.
Ciabatta.
I'm precious cargo.
Yeah, he has a briefcase handcuffed to his arm. He gets in a red egg shaped thing, and they drop him out of the plane, and then the plane gets shot down.
Yeah, and
or not shot down, it crashes.
Yeah, because our terroristas sabotage it or whatever.
Yeah.
And so Donald Pleasance is playing the president, just called president in the credits. And he's a British guy, and he wrote himself a 16-page backstory to explain to himself why a British person could become president of the United States.
Okay.
And I appreciate that level.
Does his backstory include why he also is like an angry machine gun guy?
I don't know. It might.
That happens at the end.
Yeah. No, he has this whole thing about how essentially the Thatcher regime absorbed the American regime or something, and in the early 80s, and that's how we got this fascistic America of 1997.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not against it.
Yeah, it's good. It gave him his motivation to play the character. So I like that kind of you find there's all these just great character actors in this movie, and most of them have backstories that they made up themselves for their characters,
so
and they're always really interesting stories. I think that's why the movie works on the level that it does, is that everyone took it seriously.
Yeah, I don't know. The Secret Service guys and the plane and stuff, they were so bad. Like,
the one that's trying
slamming a rifle sideways into a door, and it's an M16, and it's not even a properly assembled M16. It's missing the guards over the barrel, the upper receiver portion. It's missing the handguard portions, and I'm like, why do you have a partially disassembled M16 on your plane? And why are you striking it sidelong against the door?
Yeah, hitting the magazine against the door.
You're gonna hit the button that drops the magazine.
I'll admit that really stands out as kind of bizarre acting, like, because he's not hitting it hard.
No,
he's hitting it. It's almost like he's a poor animatronic.
If I grabbed like a broom or something and I hit you as hard as he hit that door, it wouldn't even cause you to take a half step backward. You'd be like, "Hey,
what are you doing?"
It's weird.
Stop it.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're not. They're just not dedicated to saving the president.
Yeah, like, whatever. He's got an escape pod. We're done.
Yeah, they know they're as good as dead, and they're not worried about it.
One thing that I really loved about this, and I don't know if you noticed it, but they must not have had a lot of money for like explosions and stuff,
right? Because
the plane is going down. You're like, it's clearly a model or whatever,
right?
And then at the last second before it crashes, it switches to Hulk's control room, where you get like. It's not even an 8-bit. It's like an Atari level representation of the plane crashing in pixels, and it actually looks dope.
Yeah,
I was like, fuck, that was cool. Like,
it was a cool effect.
They really took something that could have been a lame model catching on fire thing that looks obviously fake, and they actually made it really cool.
I think that's why people like these low budget horror directors. It's just intrinsic in them to do things the most efficient, and like
cut away right here, and then give them this, and you'll have the illusion of a crash.
Yeah, and it's just they're really smart with their money. They don't waste money.
Yeah, John Carpenter definitely was a value add here.
And so that's when they discovered this was Air Force One, because they just thought it was an unidentified jet, and they send in their extraction team. They fly in helicopters. They go to get the president, and we get our first island local madman. Romero comes out. And he says, "If you touch me, he dies."
Well, I wanted to comment on the police real quick as they get out of out of the helicopters. First of all, these are like Vietnam era Hueys that they're getting out of.
In 1997.
Yeah, in 1997, it's a helicopter that's not in service. Was not in service in 97. Anyway, but they're like these people that they have playing the cops. They're like bobbing along like they're like. You've played tactical video games and you see movies, how you kind of low run and you kind of keep yourself stable so you have a stable shooting platform.
Right.
There's none of that. They're just like bobbing along, jogging. They have flashlights on the ends of all of their rifles, and they're just willy-nilly flashing it around. It's not aimed at the ground. And on top of this complete lack of professionalism by the police, Hulk is there with them.
Yeah.
No tactical gear, no weapon. What the fuck?
Implausible.
And then a crazy kind of psychopunk guy comes out, Romero. And
yeah, he's not one of the crazies. That's a different gang.
That's true. It's a different guy. But he has crazy eyes.
He does. I thought it was Steve Buscemi. I was like, is this young Steve Buscemi? Because he has those eyes, those sort of like sunken, bulgy frog eyes. With all due love to Steve Buscemi. I love his frog eyes. He says, if you touch me, he dies. And if you're not in the air 30 seconds, he dies. If you come back, he dies. and then he hands over the president's finger with his signet ring.
Yeah, because our president wears a signet ring like a nobleman.
He is English.
Okay, I gotcha.
And the cops just get the hell out of there.
When the presidency changes office, they hand over the signet ring to the new president to seal his letters with.
Yeah, probably. Okay. Or maybe you get to keep it like a souvenir.
Oh, like a Super Bowl ring.
Yeah, like exactly. You get your own.
You know, you got like Clinton's got 2 of them, one on each hand.
Yeah, because presidents have different size fingers too.
That's
you know
true.
what I mean?
Barack Obama, thin fingers. Donald Trump, fat fingers. They can't wear the same ring.
He could wear the same ring. Maybe he make it he wear it on a chain, like a promise.
I bet Obama's president ring would fit on Trump's pinky.
Maybe. I bet even with all the Big Macs he's eating, I think his water retention's real high. All that sodium.
Oh man. Anyway, so yeah I like this Romero guy because he just looked weird, and I like that he was like he said. He just kind of delivered his lines in this total creeper way. Mm-hmm. I liked the makeup. I liked the acting.
Yeah.
I actually thought this guy was like, up until this point in the movie, I was like, so far, I only like Hulk and Snake. Everybody else in this movie sucks. Yeah. And now I like this guy too. Yeah. So that's good. He's
pretty cool. And a lot of the minions are named after horror movie directors like George Romero.
Yeah.
And there's a few of them. Like the people that have names, there are little homages to other directors.
Nice.
So back on Liberty Island, Police Commissioner Houck gets permission from the vice president to launch a ridiculous rescue mission.
Oh yeah, they've got a stealth glider.
Yeah. He's like, I'm going to take one of the prisoners we just got here because he's a decorated war hero. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to, in exchange for a pardon, I'm going to send him in to save the president. And the vice president is like, sure, why not?
Yeah, no problem.
I don't see anything unorthodox about that.
Mike Pence would have given the nod to that.
I don't think he would have. I think he would have been more like,
we do nothing.
Are we sure we need to extract the president?
You think Harris would give the nod to rescue Biden with a snake?
She probably would. She'd send a snake.
She's kind of a cop herself. So.
Yeah, she'd be like, that seems like a good use of a prisoner. If he dies, so what?
Yeah, we lost nothing.
Yeah. I noticed how has a picture of LBJ on the wall because he mentions that he was part of what was his unit was called Texas Thunder. Huh. And so I just like that. I was like, oh, LBJ's a Texan, and like there's thoughts here. Everything's here for a reason.
I went to his presidential ranch in Texas. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's a nice park. There's like longhorn cattle there.
I believe. Yeah, that sounds very, very right on. So anyways, Pliskin gets pulled aside, and Houck sits him down and explains the whole thing. You know, in exchange for a full pardon, you go in and extract the president. He's like, president of what?
Like, the United States.
Yeah. And he's like, get a new president. And it's all so like, it's such a parody of an action movie guy.
Oh yeah. Snake Plissken is like he's the archetypical, like he's been lampooned a million times, and he himself is just Dirty Harry.
Yeah, he's a parody of Dirty Harry in a really great way. And this is something Kurt Russell is something of a muse for John Carpenter. He's been in 5 John Carpenter films.
Wow. Which other ones? Like not all of them.
So one before this, they did a biopic of Elvis where Kurt Russell plays Elvis. Yeah. Then there's this, The Thing, which that's a really great movie.
Oh, okay.
And then what is it? Big Trouble Little China, and then Escape from L.A.
Oh, okay,
so he comes back and plays Pliskin one more time.
That's interesting.
But what I find is 3 of these, he's doing characters. Like he's doing an impression. He plays Elvis, he plays Clint Eastwood, and then he plays John Wayne basically in Big Trouble in Little China. So it's just something that the 2 of them, they have a weird, cool vibe with each other.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you get an actor and director that really just do well together, and it's good. So yeah, I mean, Pliskin basically agrees eventually. They give him some James Bond shit, like wristband with an emergency thing and like a countdown. There's the movie trope, the ticking clock.
Yeah,
there's literally a ticking clock.
There's literally a ticking clock.
This is on the nose. Like if you're a movie nerd, then the ticking clock trope is you know what that means. And then they literally do it. You can't tell me John Carpenter was ignorant of the fact that he was making the MacGuffin into an actual object in the movie.
Yeah. And then he lays out all of the gear. It's like, here's the equipment we're giving you. And it's like a video game.
So James Bond.
Yeah. It's like you have a Uzi submachine gun and you have Shuriken and you have, and it's like, and it's just.
Did you notice his submachine gun had a hunting rifle scope on it?
It's really weird. So he has like an Uzi submachine gun, then it has a long extension on the barrel, and then the scope that you're talking about.
Yeah, it was almost like it had a silencer and a hunting rifle scope. It was like, what the hell?
That's how you make something from the 80s look futuristic.
Yeah, you add more shit. I mean, tactical like Gravy Seals these days do the same thing. They just add more shit onto their guns.
If you can add shit, it's cooler. Yeah. I mean, that all just checks out.
They watched this movie too many times.
They watched this movie without irony. That's the thing. It's like
they thought Snake was legit.
They're like, I wish I was Snake Plissken. It's instead of getting the joke.
The first son's name is Snake.
Oh, dude. So I have to tell you this. I don't know if I ever told you this story. So a long time ago, you and I were well associated with each other, and so when people see me out, people go, "Where's Dave?"
Yeah, that's true. We've been a bit of a Jay and Silent Bob through the years.
Yeah. And so our mutual friend, this is long in our youth, before social media and before things could be verified. Our mutual friend Rochelle came up to me at Sherry's, and she's like, "Where's Dave?" And I made up this whole story about how you changed your name to Snake. And I have no idea why I did it, but I just had her on the hook so good. And I could see like she's believing it. Like, and she's just like, why would he do this? He's always been Dave. and she was like, I was like, I don't know. But when he gets really upset now when people call him Dave we have to call him Snake. And I totally had her on the hook.
That's
for it.
good. I don't hate that. That's hilarious.
And sorry, Rochelle, if you're listening, it was just a joke. So moving on. Snake has 24 hours.
22 actually.
Yeah, well, 2 hours have already been spent.
Yeah, so they give him a 22 and basically then they're like, oh yeah, we need to give you these shots against, what did they excuse?
They just said just
like a disease.
Yeah, they just basically said we'll give you these shots, and they double shoot him once on each side of the neck.
Once on each side of the neck with a pistol looking injector. That would have had me suspicious.
But
I've never gotten an injection in the neck.
It's unorthodox, but it's 1997. We don't know what they're used to. The doc or the med tech or whatever,
token nerd.
Yeah, he's like, tell him, and how basically just sort of Cheshire grin, and Snake's like, what'd you do to me, asshole?
And grabs him by the neck.
Yeah, and he explains he's been injected with 2 pinhead-sized explosives into each artery, and after 24 hours, they're going to dissolve and they'll explode, open up his arteries and kill him. So he needs to come back out with the president, and more importantly, this tape, a cassette tape that's got some information that needs to get to this conference, the summit. It's in where is it in Connecticut, Hartford, the Hartford Summit they call it. The Soviets and the Chinese are already there. The president was en route, and he needs to get this tape there to make this presentation. And
the doctor says like, yeah, we can neutralize them with X-rays.
Yeah,
I was like, why doesn't Snake break into a dentist's office
or just stand close to a microwave?
Yeah.
Anyways, he goes to fly the Gulf Fire, and skip over this because this is the this is the important thing. This is the thing that William Gibson cited as the influence. The reason why they want Snake is because he's flying this Gulf Fire, and he flew the Gulf Fire into Leningrad. And Gibson talked about how evocative that was, this idea. They don't explain anything. They don't explain what happened in Leningrad. We know he got a Purple Heart there. We know we're at war with the Soviets, but like there's so much stuff that's not explained.
It's like a throwaway line.
Yeah.
Like, you flew this into Leningrad and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. And so that's just, and you see this again in all this sort of cyberpunk things. We just talk about,
like the Tears in the Rain speech.
Fictional history. Oh, yeah, the Tears in the Rain is a great example of that. History. Because you hear all about what he's witnessed in these wars that you don't know anything about, and you never do find out anything about them.
I can't wait to do Blade Runner.
It's going to be good. Yeah. So anyways, Snake, he lands on the rooftop of the World Trade Center. There's really cool wireframe animation of New York City as he's flying through.
Yeah, it's pretty cool lo-fi.
Do you know how they did it?
No.
It is a model of New York City painted black with fluorescent tape on the corners of the buildings to build out the wireframe, and then they move the camera through it. It's not computer generated at all.
Oh, wow.
It's completely analog.
To make it look digital.
Yeah. They didn't have the money for that kind of 3D animation. Even as primitive as it is in 1980, that's very expensive animation. They couldn't do it. So
they couldn't even make a cartoon of it.
Yeah. They built a model that looked like a computer generated image.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
These movie makers are innovative.
They're geniuses. They're mad scientists.
I really thought this stealth glider was super dope. I can't get past that, how cool that was.
Yeah.
I really love the practical effects and all that stuff. But yeah, and then when Snake gets out of the glider and stuff, and you just see this guy looks badass. Like he's got his machine gun, he's got a pistol, like a revolver on his belt.
Yeah.
He just looks fucking cool.
Yeah. There's a reason why the Metal Gear games basically Hideo Kojima stole Snake Plissken and made Solid Snake. It's like the same guy.
It really is.
Eye patch and everything, and even the same name. I mean, he's not hiding it. And he makes his way down the World Trade Center, and we see some of like the scurrying rabble of the city here and there.
And you see just the burned out city, and then there's the crashed plane. You see that there's just pieces of it on the ground, and fake news, because we know jet fuel can't burn hot enough to melt steel beams.
Right, totally.
And so this would not have done that much damage. But yeah.
So no one's there at the plane, but he's got a tracker that's, he's got the president's Fitbit.
I love that he pulls out this thing and he extends the wire antenna. That shit's dope.
Yeah, it's very, very analog. Yeah. He can track the president's pulse. And so he takes off after the president, and then he finds himself in a weird vaudeville review cabaret show.
Yeah, and this guy, Ernest Borgnine, comes up to say, "Hey, Snake!"
Yeah. So this is the first time we encounter the cabbie. He's watching the show and having a grand old time.
Can we just say Ernest Borgnine plays the same character in everything he does?
Pretty much.
He just plays himself.
Basically, it's like he's always sort of like a gruff, jolly Navy vet. Like that's him. That's who he was in real life, and then that's who he plays. He actually, though, in the Kirk Douglas movie, The Vikings, he plays Ragnar Lothbrok in that.
Oh, does he?
Yeah. So
interesting.
It's pretty. I've never seen that movie, but I watched the trailer as I was kind of going down a Borgnine rabbit hole. and you see him with a full beard and a battle axe yelling Odin, and it's like okay, I want to watch this movie.
Sounds interesting. Do we need a Vikings series?
Oh, Carrie would go crazy.
I mean,
the historical
man, there would be Valhalla Rising.
Yeah, the historical inaccuracies would be very controversial in your house.
That'd be fun.
I like every movie you mentioned. So, so anyways, Cabby goes and he's like, "You're Snake Plissken. I heard you was dead." And, you know, Snake's just kind of brushing him off, and he's following the...
It's like Snake, this special operator, he's used to fanboys.
Yeah. And everyone thinks he's dead. So we don't really know much about the legend of Snake Plissken, but everyone has that same reaction.
This really reminds me of Shadowrun. Like, he's a Shadowrunner they pulled out of prison. Everyone on the streets thinks he's dead.
Yeah, we heard you died. And it's like, no. But he doesn't. He never says no.
He doesn't say.
He doesn't acknowledge it. That's the Snake way. Yeah. And he heads downstairs, and Cabby's like, "Oh, you don't want to walk around down there, Snake."
Yeah.
And he doesn't. It's gross down there. There's sexual assault going on.
And the thing is like he goes down there, and there's like this sexual assault going on, and he just looks at it, and he goes, "None of my business," and walks off. He turns and walks away. It's like, geez,
grim,
dude, you have no scruples.
It's, you know, you're on this prison island, and it's sort of, I think
you're the only one with a silenced machine gun.
It would, it's not too much.
Yeah.
Pop, pop.
Yeah.
Like, you're welcome.
And there's a vaudeville show going on upstairs. No one would hear.
Yeah.
Everything would be fine.
He's actually very judicious with that gun. Like, he does not use it very much.
I think I'd have been a lot more liberal with my ammo usage.
Just popping any sort of rando crazy. Yeah. And so he follows the tracker to the president, and he sees a guy getting roughed up in the corner.
He's getting beat up, yeah.
Yeah, but it's just a local wacko. It's not the president.
Yeah, some wackadoo guy with a big gnarly beard. He's got the president's wristwatch on.
Yeah, he said he woke up and he knew he was the president when he woke up with this.
Yeah.
And so Snake busts it off his wrist and then gets on the radio back to HQ.
Excuse me.
Because everyone freaks out when the Fitbit turns off. They're like, the president died. But Snake radios and he's like, it's not the president. Get me out of here.
Yeah, and so then he's leaving, and I really like John Carpenter does a good job of establishing mood and making Snake just walking down the street. He just makes it scary.
Yeah,
like, it's dark. There's really eerie sounds, and then you start seeing people like lurking at the edges of the frame.
Yeah. And it's very ominous, and the music becomes more ominous, and the people, there's like, they start signaling to each other like with pipes and stuff. And then before he even realizes what's going on, the crazies are all around him. And he
accidentally destroys his radio while he's running away.
Oh, yeah. Because he ducks into like a nut shop from them, like fresh roast nuts.
And it's like Plenty-O Nuts or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
And there's a girl hiding out in there.
Yeah, just this random blonde woman with a mullet, and she's just like smoking.
Yeah, because she's basically just waiting for the sun to come up so she can get out of here. And she's like, "You're Snake Plissken. I heard you were dead." And then like they're almost going to get like romantic with each other for a second.
Yeah.
And then the crazies start coming up through the floors.
And they pull the girl down through the floors. And I'm like, oh, Snake's going to go after her.
Nope. No, Snake.
What a douche.
It's the only time in the movie that he seems shook, like, is when the crazies are all around. Because he's just like, doesn't know what to make of these sewer people.
Yeah, and someone had said something like they're hungry. Like she had said, it's the end of the month. They're hungry.
Yeah, because they do food drops on the island.
Yeah, so like these are cannibals.
Yeah, so yeah, she's eaten, and Snake gets out of there, but he drops the radio, busts it open, and he's hopping fences and everything. And then the cabbie's waiting for him, and basically, you know, they make their getaway. Cabby chucks a Molotov cocktail through the sunroof.
He's so jolly about it.
This is just his life. He's been driving a cab for 30 years.
Yeah, and somehow the subject of the Duke comes up, and Snake wants to meet the Duke, and Cabby's like, nobody meets the Duke.
Yeah, and Snake gets a little like, he kind of puts a gun on the cabbie, which I thought was just too aggressive.
He wouldn't even shoot the crazies.
Yeah,
but he'll pull iron on cabbie.
Yeah,
What the hell,
uncalled
dude?
for.
The guy that rescued you.
Snake's a bit of a dick. The cabbie, he knows better than to take him straight to the Duke. He takes him to see Brain, and Brain is in the public library. He's turned it into like a fortress. And he's in there with the lovely Adrienne Barbeau, one of my childhood crushes. Every time she comes out, I'm like, oh, it's her.
That hair, though,
pretty poodly.
That was like a poodle perm, kind of a helmet. It was terrible.
It looked normal at the time, but it's aged worse than pretty much any of these hairstyles.
I mean, yeah, she's a very pretty lady, but that hair was terrible. It was like, dang.
It was a different time. It was 1997.
Even that blonde mullet lady looked better.
Yeah, I agree.
She kind of had
I do agree with that.
Had kind of a Miley Cyrus thing going on.
Kind of. That's who would play that character now.
Yeah.
If you remade this with Wyatt Russell instead of Kurt Russell, Miley Cyrus would be that girl that gets eaten by the crazies. I went
down a Russell rabbit hole, and I was like, oh man, he played U.S. Agent.
Yeah. And then both Kurt Russell and Wyatt Russell are going to be in the Apple TV Godzilla series.
Oh man, that's gonna be cool.
They got double Russells.
I don't have Apple TV. Is that a must-have? I feel like at this point there's too many must-haves.
There's too many, but figure out a way to get someone else to pay for Apple TV for you. That's my recommendation. Find someone that'll let you log in on it.
That's a good one.
Yeah,
good idea.
Someone out there has an Apple TV.
I almost feel like dropping Netflix at this point is you just re-up it for Witcher and then turn it off.
And then turn it off again. That's not a bad idea. Stranger Things was really strong this season.
I have watched 0 seasons of Stranger Things. Should I change? Sorry, this is a side divers, but you're an hour and 15 in. You're probably getting.
Yeah, you're in for this ride.
Should I care? I was a young D&D nerd. I tend to not like things with child actors. Should I watch that show?
The fact that you hate things with kids in it is a big strike against it.
Yeah.
If it's very much an homage to 80s horror, like Stephen, it's Stephen meets Stephen, right? It's Spielberg meets Stephen King. And it's very evocative of the time period. It hits me on a lot of levels. I'm very susceptible to children in peril. It makes me feel anxious, even when I know what's going to happen. And there's children always in peril in this show. And they're like children that go into other dimensions and fight demons and stuff. So it's very perilous.
Interesting.
I love this series. The second season was pretty weak, but 1, 3, and 4 have been very strong.
1, 3, and 4. Okay.
I mean, you can't skip 2, but it's just the kind of the slowest season.
Well, I'm in the middle of a series right now that I'll probably finish pretty soon. So maybe I'll check that out next. I'm painting a lot of models, so I got to have something on.
Stranger Things is strong. It's a very strong show, but it is kids. It's all kids.
All kids. I'll give it a few episodes.
Okay.
All right. Back to this. Back to Snake. So basically, when he's meeting Brain, Brain is like this douchebag genius. He's like an engineer, and he's figured out how to make gasoline to fuel the cars in the city. And so the Duke is basically kind of beholden in a way. He needs the gas. Yeah. So he kind of works for the Duke.
He works for the Duke, and he's got kind of a privileged position. And I should say this is the great character actor Harry Dean Stanton is playing Brain. He's literally drilling oil in the basement of the library
that's hilarious.
In the middle of New York City. I don't think that's possible, but it's pretty funny. And he's someone Snake has history with this guy. They did a job together, and he
like half the people here know Snake already.
Literally everyone he meets knows who he is. It's just, it never fails. Everyone knows who he is, and they all think he's dead.
And most of them know it was from a robbery.
Yeah. The Brain, none of his flim flam really works on Snake because Snake knows him. Like, he knows his real name. It was like Harold or something.
Yeah, he's like, call me Brain.
Yeah, and he's like Harold Hellman. And so he left.
They don't have the terms we have now. Brain could have said, do not dead name me.
Yeah. But the Brain is a flim flam man.
Yeah,
if he did it, he'd be appropriating that verbiage, that terminology. Yeah.
It wouldn't be legit.
But so Snake basically clues him in on what's going on and how he's got a way off the island if they can get the president and this tape.
Yeah, and it seems like the brain is on board with it.
Yeah, because he'd love to get off the island. Mm-hmm. He's kind of oversold his scientific ability, I assume.
Yeah, basically Brain explains, hey, yeah, I figured out where all the landmines are on the bridge, and I've drawn a map. Mm-hmm. So the Duke is going to lead a revolt where we're going to get off off that bridge using the president as a human shield to lead the charge. But if you've got a plane, heck with it. We'll just go with you instead of Duke.
And Snake kind of tells him that plan's not going to work because of this ticking time clock. You know, the Duke's plan is not going to happen. Like the tape is already stale by the time the Duke is planning on driving across the bridge.
Yeah, because the president isn't the important part. It's the cassette tape,
right?
In his,
which I don't think Snake reveals that to anybody. He's keeping that information to himself at this point. And they all head out, and then the Duke is coming. You know, the Duke, he's got his lowrider motorcade, and he's coming down.
Cadillac with chandeliers on it.
It's pretty dope.
It's ridiculous.
And the Duke is Isaac Hayes. This it's a cast of all low tier legends. You know what I mean? Like there's no movie stars in this. Kurt Russell's not even really a movie star when this movie comes out. He's a Disney TV movie guy. Yeah. This movie came out the same year as he's the voice of a cartoon Fox in The Fox and the Hound.
Oh man, I didn't know he was the Fox.
Yeah, he's very much at this point in his career a Disney actor, and that's what he's thought of as. So this is a big breakout for him.
Isaac Hayes is great in this.
He's number one, man. Yeah. And so Cabby cheeses it out of there. He's like, nobody crosses the Duke. He gets in the cab and drives off.
Yeah, what a dirt bag.
And they're all just basically, they hide until the Duke goes, knocking on their door, and then they carjack one of his minions.
Mm-hmm. And I think that it's pretty cool. They steal this armored up station wagon. It has like rebar welded across the glass and stuff. And then they drive through this like street or alleyway, and there's a bunch of people beating on the car with things. They're hitting it approximately as hard as the Secret Service agent was hitting that door. Yeah. There's nothing happens to this car.
No, so they basically, at Brain's advice, they take a shortcut on Broadway so that they can get back to the Duke's compound before he does. Mm-hmm. And Maggie, she doesn't want to take Broadway, but the Brain is like, it's worth it. And the problem is, I guess Broadway is lined with people that throw bricks at your car.
Yeah.
Which is why they have the rebar over the windows, and then they just drive real slow.
And nothing happens.
Nothing happens, but they are kind of led into a barricade. Like Broadway is walled off with a wall of cars, but Snake just backs up, flips it around, backs through the wall of cars.
Yeah, I was just thinking, this is a pretty anticlimactic action scene.
For as much as this is thought of as an action movie, there's very little action in it.
Yeah, this is a low-speed action movie. This is more like, what would you call it? A thriller?
Yeah. That's what I settled on, was thriller, because it's more tense than it is action-packed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the fighting's real bad in this movie. It's not much of an action movie.
But they've got like these long spokes or whatever that stick off of the wheels that just kind of like clip people at the shins, and they're driving like 12 miles an hour down Broadway. Yeah. Like it's very slow, and it's just sort of like, ow, like it's not like they're running over people, but the people aren't being that aggressive to them either.
Yeah, it's just this weird scene. But they eventually make it to the Duke's lair, and it's at this rail yard.
Right.
And I really like this set. It seems creepy with these trains, and there's like smoke and stuff, and he rolls up. And I mean, I just thought I just thought this whole setting was really cool looking.
It is cool. And we get the Brains, his whole thing is just talking fast to dumb people.
Yeah.
Right. So he walks up there and starts talking about how the Duke wants him to look at the president, and he's just trying to bamboozle these goons, while, Snake does good on his stealth roll and just like hops on top of the train and is making his way to the president's car.
Because he's Solid Snake.
Yeah. It is just like Metal Gear. Totally. And he does pretty well. He gets to the car with the president in it. He does take a crossbow bolt to the leg from a goon.
Bummer.
But he gets the president out of there, and the president's very concerned with like, who sent you? Like, who are you with? And it's like, it doesn't matter. We're getting you out of here.
Yeah, and then they get caught.
Mm-hmm. Then they get caught. It doesn't take long.
It's not even very much of a climax. And then like Snake gets knocked out or whatever, and he wakes up surrounded by the Duke's men, and I guess they needed his shirt.
Yeah. It is the Duke that knocks him out, right? Like the Duke comes up and brains him with a tire iron. And after kind of, it's like, who are you? Da, 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 da. And Brain is like, it's Snake Plissken, Duke. The man sent him in here. Something's going down. We need him. Like he's just got this weird delivery. And I don't know. I mean, it made me memorize that line. Like I didn't even write that down. It's so funny. So
is Snake's belly cobra tattoo, is that cool or lame?
That's pretty cool. I think that,
especially if your name is Snake.
If your name is Snake, I mean, and
it goes down his pants. You could to where the snake body goes to.
Do we speculate on the tail of the snake? Does it lead to the ding dong?
I think.
Does it become the ding dong?
Yeah.
Does it coil around?
I don't know, but I mean, come on. This is a weird. I kind of felt like that a snake tattoo on a guy named Snake coming from his snake.
It's a hat on a hat. It's a hat on a hat.
It's a little extra.
I think
it's a snake on a snake on a snake.
I think he's named after the tattoo. I don't think the tattoo is, he's like, oh, they call me Snake, so I'm gonna get a snake tattoo. I think they call him Snake because he has a snake tattoo.
And he never talks to people and they don't know his name. Yeah. They're like, what's your name? Whatever. All right, Snake.
Yeah.
Okay, I can get behind that, but I mean, I don't think that tattoo is for me.
You don't think that's a tough sit, man? That a belly tattoo of a snake.
I don't have any belly tattoos, so I don't know, but it looks tough.
That's one of those ones, and it only comes out at special occasions. Not everyone sees that.
Yeah, not a lot of people see my belly. So I think that it kind of goes to a scene where the president, the Duke is having target practice where he's shooting around the president.
Yeah.
And he's forcing him to say, you're the Duke of New York. You're #1. This reminds me of Bruce Leroy.
Oh, yeah. No, very much. I thought of that movie too.
What came first? Probably this.
What's that called? That's The Last Dragon, right?
The Last Dragon. And is like, who is the master?
Yeah.
And it's just like,
show enough.
That movie is good. If you guys haven't seen The Last Dragon, you really ought to. It's a blaxploitation
kung fu movie. Last Dragon's 1985. So this definitely takes place.
So they definitely took a little bit of steez from this.
I think so. And I think this movie kind of made me think of The Warriors a little bit, because there's that same thing. You have to get across New York and deal with all the different gangs.
Yeah.
And so that felt like, there's a line to be drawn from The Warriors to this to The Last Dragon. That's
for sure.
I follow that line of thinking too. They're being very cavalier with the president.
Yeah, and they don't care if they put a bullet in him.
No, not at all. And considering they think they're going to need him to get out of there, they really don't seem to care if they shoot him at all.
Yeah.
And just accidentally, they shoot open the briefcase and the MacGuffin tape comes out. Skitters across the floor and Romero grabs it.
Yep.
So, got to keep track of that tape, since that is the thing it's actually the most important thing in the whole story.
Yeah, sort of.
Yeah, sort of.
And then you see helicopters heading into New York, and people are waving them down. Like, they're like waving their street. And
because they have the briefcase.
Yeah.
And they're coming into the food drop or whatever, and they wave them down with the president's briefcase.
Yeah, and I thought it was cool, in Huck's control room, they have this really cool neon map in the background. At first, when I was watching this movie, I was thinking, this isn't cyberpunk. This doesn't have any cyber to it. But actually, there's a lot of low-tech computer stuff in here. This is pretty cyber. I don't know. It's just really cool. It reminds me of how, like this led to like something like Tron.
Yeah.
You know?
I think if they had been thinking a little more ahead, making it a disc would have made it much more futuristic seeming. But I think also the original script was written in the 70s, kind of in the wake of the Watergate scandal.
Yeah. So they're like the tapes.
The tape is futuristic for the 70s sort of thing, like, and so it's just kind of very much a product of their time and imagining the near future where not that much is
97,
Yeah.
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 But it's just interesting things that I'm noticing here with the cyberpunk stuff.
Yeah. So they flag down the food helicopter, and in the president's briefcase, they have their demands. They want amnesty for all the prisoners in New York City in exchange for the president.
There's no way that would ever be granted.
No. And meanwhile, Brain figures out where the plane is, because it's the only place he could have landed without anyone noticing is somewhere up high, and the highest place is the World Trade Center.
Yeah, and Brain's relatively smart. His name is Brain. And then then we cut and we have Snake forced to fight a death match against the Duke's champion Slag.
And Slag is played by a pro wrestler by the name of, I know it's Ox something, right?
This is basically how all those 80s bad guy wrestlers looked. They're not jacked. They're not like ripped. They're just very large.
As Abe Simpson says, that combination of fat and strong we called beefy.
That is exactly what this guy is. He's just beefy.
And he was like, he's an old school Ox Baker. He's an old school heel wrestler. And he's known as one of the meanest, vicious, hated, and ugliest wrestlers ever.
That's great.
And I think it's really funny that his bio has ugliest in it. But anyways, so Snake has to fight Slag. And
they start off with just baseball bats, and they're fighting with them like lightsabers almost.
They're fighting like two people that don't want to get hit by a bat. I
think they're fighting like two people that don't know how to fight.
Yeah.
And then it goes to shields with spiked bats.
Yeah. It's a standard 2-round death match.
Yeah, no
bats and then spiked bats with trash can lids.
Those spikes would go through a trash can lid.
Oh yeah.
I mean, trash can lid ain't shit.
And Snake mostly gets served in this fight.
Yeah, he's
Slag
getting beat up.
Beats him up. And then Snake kind of gets a few lucky shots and then puts a nail in the back of his head.
Yeah, he hits him in the back of the head and basically kills him. And
that's a pretty dangerous shot to shoot.
Slag.
Yeah.
That's sad.
So the way they shot that, they basically put a pad on the back of his head. Kurt Russell takes a swing with the bat, and you hope you hit the pad. It was... It's one of those things where it's like...
Why didn't they put... like rubber nails on it or something? Like,
I don't know. It's the sort of risk that they don't take in movie making anymore. In today's, our beta cuck society we live in, where we no longer can swing a spiked bat at people's heads.
I know. What's wrong with people these days?
People are just too soft.
Bunch of snowflakes.
Not like in 1997.
So basically he kills the guy, and at the same time Brian and Maggie kill Romero and flee with the president.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they basically
they're like, they know where the glider is, and they're gonna get the president, and they're gonna get out of there.
Yeah, they passed their charisma roll, where basically they bamboozled the dummy again.
They're basically going to take Snake's job. If you rescue the president, you get pardoned. Perfect.
It makes total sense. I mean, and everyone here is a criminal, so we know they're all unscrupulous.
Yeah.
And the crowd had been booing Snake, but once he killed Slag, yeah, they all came around to Snake, and so the Duke gets out of there. You know, he's not sticking around to see what happens now that Snake's kind of taking control of the mob.
Yeah.
And let's see what. That's when the Duke's people realize the president's missing. Mm-hmm. And Snake just assumes they have to be going to the World Trade Center, so he heads there too. And kind of everyone is going to the same place.
Yeah, and he gets there, and the inmates, they end up like cutting the cable, and they drop the glider off the side of the roof.
Yeah, and it, I think this is a good scene, and it's that moment when the movie could end here, but something goes wrong, except for that Brain calls them Redskins and says that they're savages.
I saw that, and I was like, oh, they knocked the thing off. Why didn't they try to steal it? And then he calls them goddamn Redskins, and then calls them savages. I was like, casual racism?
Yeah.
Why, Why, Brain? This is not needed.
Yeah.
Racism, not cool.
You're supposed to be the smart one here on the island. Yeah. It was a bad look. And it's jarring. Like, it's like when he says that, and you're like, oh.
In 81, what? I was very young.
They only just stopped calling the football team the Washington Redskins.
Was that considered like a slur?
I don't think in 1981, and this is terrible, but I think this is how it was. I don't think anyone was concerned with Native American issues at all. Like, I think if you remember, like, you were in Boy Scouts. Yeah, there's a lot of problematic Native American stuff.
After the 80s.
Yeah, no, in the 80s, but yeah. And that was all just. I remember doing like Indian dances and PE and all sorts of stuff, and I had like classmates that are Native American descent and stuff. And it's like, looking back on all that, it's like, this seemed like a good idea to the adults in this room. Like, I just don't get it.
Come a long way.
Yeah, long way to go still.
Yeah, sure. But we could recognize that some progress has been made. At least this sort of casual racism wouldn't be acceptable.
Yeah.
If you see racism in a movie nowadays, it's because they're demonstrating that person is fucking horrible.
Yeah.
Or that time was really terrible.
Right. And I think we're supposed to mostly like Brain.
Yeah, I think Brain's supposed to be like a likable fast talker. He's got the pretty girlfriend, and he mostly is kind of a friend to Snake.
He's a rascal.
Yeah. Anyway,
Snake gets there. They get the hell out of there. They're gonna try and do the bridge route now, but when they get to Brain's car, the Dukes pulled the engine out of it.
Just inexplicably.
Yeah, because they're like, the car won't start. Lift the hood up, the engine's gone. And then the Duke's over there with a steam engine. I don't know. Did he lift it out of the car?
Yeah, where's the cherry picker?
I don't know how they stealth pulled the engine out of a car.
This is some really interesting writing.
We're in the final stretch of the movie, and we're getting into really brushing away things that are inconvenient to the plot, and just moving along.
And so, like, Cabby shows up.
Yeah, Cabby pulls up. They run out of there, get in his car. They're in a high-speed chase with the Duke. He's chasing in his Cadillac with the chandeliers. And
at some point, Cabby reveals, he says that he got the cassette tape from Romero.
Yeah, we brushed over that because Cabby's missing his signature, Navy hat that he always wore, and Romero had been wearing it earlier, so we know they had made some sort of swap with each other.
Yeah, so he gave him the hat, he got the tape.
Because Cabby collects tapes, because he's a music aficionado, which was established when we saw him at the show earlier.
Yeah, he said he normally doesn't come to this area of town, except he really loves the music.
Yeah, so Cabby has the tape. Snake figures that out. He puts 2 and 2 together. So now they have the tape, and they've got the president. They're all set.
The president's like, give me the tape. Snake's
like, no, I'm keeping the tape. Because Snake knows the tape is more important than the president. Even if the president doesn't make it, if he can get there with the tape, he's still getting out.
Yeah.
And they drive across the 69th Street Bridge, which is not a bridge that exists.
Okay.
And this is definitely not any bridge in New York. This is a bridge in St. Louis.
It's very narrow. It's like a 2-lane bridge.
It is. And they're zigging and zagging, and Snake is driving.
I thought this was like a soundstage or something because it just looked real cheesy.
No, I think this is a real bridge in St. Louis, Missouri.
Well, St. Louis, Missouri, you look cheesy.
Yeah, I assume that's true. And this is really a bad system, driving high speed down this bridge while Brain calls out where the mines are.
It's like high speed Frogger.
Totally. And, inevitably, of course, they hit a mine, and it literally blows the cab in half.
It shears it in half cleanly.
Yes.
It's not blown up. It's literally cut into as if with a shear.
It's amazing, and it is
so bad.
The engine of the cab continues skidding along, and then the back half of the cab skids along, and everyone is fine except for Cabby. He died.
Yeah.
R.I.P. Cabby. We hardly knew you.
Yeah, and I mean, at some point the caddy sets off a mine.
Yeah,
and he's like chasing.
They take off on foot. Brain is the first one. He steps on a mine. Brain blows up. Then Maggie's, heartbroken.
She asks for a gun so she can stay there and fight.
Yeah, and she stands there and just takes shots straight down the middle of the Cadillac as the Duke heads into her, and he just plows into her.
Yeah, brutal.
And then you get a quick shot of her dead on the ground. And this has a little bit of trivia around it that's really interesting.
Okay.
J.J. Abrams, future director, he has a weird, where he's one of these kids that grew up in and around Hollywood and everything.
Okay.
He was at an early test screening of the movie, and he said, "Did Maggie die? We never see her body." And so in John Carpenter's garage, they had Adrienne Barbeau lay down on the floor covered in blood, and they shot an extra scene of her dead so they could cut it into the movie
so you'd know she died.
Yeah, because future bad Star Wars movie director J.J. Abrams didn't know for sure she was dead.
Yeah. You remember how there was a minute when everyone thought J.J. Abrams can do no wrong?
Mm-hmm. It's past.
He can do no right.
I mean,
no, his Star Trek movie was all right.
The first one.
Yeah.
Second one, no.
Yeah.
Same thing with Star Wars. First one, I like it. Rise of Skywalker, not so much.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. He makes good first movies. He sets up the board.
So you got to hire him, one and done.
Mm-hmm. And then you're like, get the hell out of here, JJ. We're going to get someone else in. Anyways, this is not the JJ Abrams, so that's another time. So we're down to just Snake Plissken and the Duke chasing him
with the president
on foot. Oh, and the president. Yes, we've got 3 people in the mix.
And the Duke's got he's got Snake's Mac 10, and he's shooting at him, and he's killing guards and stuff.
Yeah. So basically, they get to the wall, they lower the thing down, they get the president out of there, and Snake gets in a little fracas with the Duke.
It's not much of a fight.
It is not much of a fight.
They did not hire a fight choreographer for this movie.
They should have had Ox Baker. A professional wrestler should know how to choreograph a fight. He's there anyway.
Imagine if Sir Christopher Lee had done this movie.
He would have sword.
How amazing the fights would have been.
Who is he? Is he Snake or is he's the Duke?
He would be the Duke.
Yeah, he has to.
It would be Sauron.
It would be. God, you know what? It would be like instead of the Cadillac, he would have like a Dracula carriage.
Oh God, yes, that would be.
That's
amazing.
pulled by people because there wouldn't be any horses.
That'd be so dark. And he'd get out and he'd have a sword.
Yeah,
and he could fight Snake Plissken.
I'm into this.
We should make some fanfic
in our where we only recast the Duke of New York as Sir Christopher Lee. Yeah, I like this. I'm into this idea.
I think this could be an ongoing series where we recast strategic characters in different movies as with Christopher Lee.
Oh, just him?
Yeah, just him. Who could he do better?
Yeah, that's funny. Okay, so anyways, Snake, they lower the thing back down once the president gets out.
Yeah.
And Snake is getting hauled up, and he's basically a sitting duck up there.
Yeah.
But the president has a vendetta against the Duke of New York.
Yeah, so he turns off the crank.
Yeah, he stops it. He leaves Snake hanging there and then guns down the Duke of New York.
I don't know why he had to turn it off. It was going on its own. It was like an electric winch.
I think he just didn't. I think he found the sound distracting.
Oh, yeah. I'm having trouble aiming.
Or he wanted the Duke to hear him shout him down. Yeah.
Because he shoots him and he goes, "Hey, number one."
Yeah. So the president gets his I won't call it a hero. It's too petty to be a hero moment, but he gets his revenge.
Yeah. That was very American of him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's adjusted nicely to our country, to our ways.
And so then Snake is he looks around and he sees the doctor and he makes a beeline for him because he's got the ticking time bomb.
Yeah, he wants to get microwaved in a hurry.
Yeah, and the guy pulls out these little, look like shock paddles, puts them on his neck, and boop, it's done. That's it. Yeah. He's like, okay, great. And he looks at the watch. And it's like 3, 2, 1, and then nothing. It's like, okay, it did work.
I made it. Yeah, and he gave the tape to the president, or so it seems. And Houck offers him a job. He's like, "You still gonna kill me, Snake?" He's like, "I'm too tired."
I love that. Sounds like something I'd say.
Yeah. I'll kill you later. Yeah, Houck wants to use Snake to do all the. He's like, this is like I start my own Suicide Squad here.
Yeah, exactly. That's what he's doing.
He's like, I'll use you to do all the dirty work. And the Snake goes over and he has he wants to talk to the president. He wants just a few minutes. They're shaving the president, getting him ready
Cleaning him up,
getting him ready for his Zoom call.
On him.
Yeah.
Yeah, for his Zoom call.
Yeah, because he can't make it to Hartford.
So they're going to televise him in.
Yeah, he's going to Zoom in. And Snake asks him, a lot of people died. Get you out of there. How do you feel about that? And he's not impressed with the president's response.
Yeah, he gives kind of a politician's non-response.
Yeah, he's like, I want to honor them or something like that.
I'd like to honor them.
Yeah. And Snake is like, yeah, that's kind of what I thought. And he walks out of there, and the president starts his address, and he puts in his nuclear secrets tape.
Yeah, because they're going to share the secret to nuclear fission with China and Russia. And this is a peace offering so that...
Is that your take on it?
Well, that's what it said on the internet.
Okay. Yeah, because I was like... Because you just hear a little bit of the tape, and I was like, is this talking about a bomb? Is it talking about a power source?
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be... fusion or fission or something. Basically,
they said fusion. It's not fission.
It should be infinite power.
Yeah.
So basically, if you can give these countries give them infinite power with this new technology, then that's a peace offering.
Yeah.
But if we had that, we would not give it away. We would sell power.
Yeah.
It's free to us.
Infinite power is free to us, and
not to you.
Available at a cost. Yeah.
Yeah. We would just become power merchants.
But he puts the tape in, and the song Bandstand Boogie starts playing.
Cabby's fave.
And
Snake is tearing the tape, the magnetic strip out of the tape.
We just see Snake walking away, pulling the tape out. Roll credits. That's the end of the movie.
That's it. And I was just thinking, damn, that was a ride, because there were some infinitely cheeky, weird moments, and there were some really good moments too. It was like, this movie it made me feel very strangely about watching it.
I've been wondering how you were going to take this movie, because I'm
pretty judgmental.
Yeah. And I was like, and I kept thinking, like, there's certain parts in the movie where I'm like, oh, Dave's going to hate this. And I was like, but it's really funny and smart. And like, there's cool stuff going on here, but there's this really cheesy stuff. And a lot of it's on purpose, though.
Mm-hmm. And I generally like that tongue-in-cheek kind of thing. That's why I think a movie like Dumb and Dumber is really smart.
Yeah. Because it's hard to be dumb.
It's hard to be that ridiculous.
Right.
Like you have to really think of those. Yeah. I mean, there's so many jokes in that movie that only work because they're smart.
Yeah.
So yeah, this movie has a lot of that too.
Yeah.
And I'm a John Carpenter fan.
When the cab blows in half.
I was like, oh my God. Like it's sheared in two. It's not even exploded.
There's so many things that have to be on purpose.
And the engine moved like, oh, you have a steam engine. Inexplicably a steam engine from here to there.
Yeah. We just lifted it out. Just us.
It wasn't bolted in. No tools needed.
Yeah, like there's not that moment when you hear the air hammer as they're removing the bolt.
As if they couldn't have just flattened all four of his tires.
That's definitely easier than pulling an engine out. But there's something about lifting the hood up and the engine is gone.
Yeah.
There's a real hopelessness.
That's why we need Slag. We needed Slag in that scene.
Because he's the only guy big enough to lift an engine.
He's beefy.
All right. So I guess we're kind of talking about this already.
Yeah, so you want to start with me?
We'll start with you.
Okay,
yeah.
what worked for me? The tone and the mood. Okay. I really feel like John Carpenter nailed it with the feel. This movie is dark and gritty. It's not an action movie.
No.
And it took me a minute to get that into my head. This is not actually an action movie. This is a thriller, kind of a suspenseful sci-fi. I guess it is science fiction, but it's
or speculative fiction.
Yeah, it's interesting. I really like how successfully and subtly they evoked fascism. Like, for example, there's a scene where Hulk is standing on the wall of the prison, and there's like some writing spray painted on the, like numbers spray painted on the wall, and then there's a blue light flashing near him, and behind him you see like a helicopter fly, and there's no lines.
Yeah.
Hulk is just looking, and I was like, man, that's fascism.
Yeah.
Like it's like, that's just good directing. You were really showing me how this is. And then the absolute opposite of that is in the anarchy that they showed.
Yeah.
Like I really liked how things were just absurd, like a vaudeville theater with basically like Morlocks below it. Like this is crazy time. Like I feel like this was a really, really dark view of humanity, and I just thought that tone was just classic Carpenter. I thought that it's just so good. And then the other major point that I had was I just thought that Kurt Russell was really great in this movie. He stayed in character. I mean, not that an actor ever gets out of character, but I just like how this character, he doesn't deliver a ton of lines.
Yeah.
He does more with his look and his physical acting and his, his movement and his like really dismissive looks and things. I just felt like Kurt Russell nailed it in this movie, and it was a high point to the movie. So what about you? What were for you?
Well, when we're talking about Kurt Russell, let's stop for a second. So do you know there was two other people considered for the role? Do you know who these are?
No.
Tommy Lee Jones.
Okay. He could have done it, I guess.
And Charles Bronson.
Oh, wow. It would have been a very different movie.
If Charles Bronson did it, which is who I want to say the studio, but this is not a studio movie, but so the producers, the money wanted Charles Bronson to do it. And he was such an established actor, and John Carpenter didn't want that. He didn't want an actor that could push him around. He liked Kurt Russell, and so that's who he wanted to work with. If Charles Bronson did it, I don't think the humor would be there. I think he would be Snake Plissken without the wink. You know,
yeah, it would have been Snake Plissken, hardcore murderer.
Yeah. Yeah, like the Death Wish movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it just would not have been the movie that it was. So it's
because there's a little bit of Big Trouble in Little China in this movie.
Totally. Yeah.
I mean,
and Kurt Russell, I don't know. I like Kurt Russell. He's good.
Yeah, he is a really good actor. I enjoy his movies.
Okay, so as for what worked for me, number one, the music.
Yeah,
I love John Carpenter's music. I used to have the theme from Halloween as the ringtone on my phone. Back when we used to use ringtones. Now everyone's on silent.
I used to pay like 99 cents
to buy ringtones? Yeah. And every time my phone rang out in public, people would jump. Like they would hear the Halloween music and people would be, oh my God. And like, and that's how evocative John Carpenter's scores are.
Nice.
It's like when people hear that, they think Michael Myers is going to stab them.
Yeah.
Like, and and they're really sparse and understated, and they create a vibe. And the score of Stranger Things, since we were talking about that earlier, very much emulates the Carpenter sound. I always think that when watching that show, they want it to sound like a John Carpenter movie.
Yeah.
Number two, there's a murderer's row of legendary character actors in this movie, and that's part of what's so fun. Every time a new person shows up, you're like, Ernest Borgnine, Lee Van Cleef, Harry Dean Stanton, Adrian Barbeau, Ox Baker, the ugliest pro wrestler of all time. Like, it's just like every one of those people, you're like, oh, I love that guy. Oh, I love them. And they really, Isaac Hayes, Jesus, is such a great cast. And then finally, like the simplicity of the movie.
Yeah.
This is such a get the thing, get it to here in this amount of time.
This is a World of Warcraft quest.
It's a fetch quest.
Yeah.
And it's
a timed fetch quest, which happens in the game so much.
And it's so, maybe that's why this movie is so influential on video games. So many games take from it because it seems like a game. Here's your inventory. You have these things.
Yeah, this is your weapon. You have mini bosses like Slag and the Duke.
Exactly. It's totally like that. And that is actually why it works. Like modern movie, because this is a short movie. It's only an hour and a half.
I like hour and a half movies.
If this was a modern movie, it's 2.5 hours, and everything gets explained.
There's you get the Duke's backstory. Yeah. You learn about the brain.
We get flashbacks to Leningrad and all of that stuff. And it's
you learn about Cabby's missing daughter.
All of that stuff, and it's like, no, it works because it is so simple, because you make up your own story. You're like, oh, geez, what was it like when he flew the Gulf Fire into Leningrad? You just get images in your head of that. Like you see the Onion Tower buildings and you see the plane coming in there. You imagine all that stuff, and you're imagining things that are better than they could have made in 1980. So that's why it works, is how simple everything is.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you. I like the simplicity and how they say those things, like, like the little throwaway lines that make you think there's a lot more to it.
Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, I was in Unit Texas Thunder. You're in Unit Blacklight. All that stuff.
Exactly. I watched the sea beams glitter in the dark near the Tannhauer Gate.
Oh yeah, don't skip ahead. That's the next episode. Okay, what didn't work for you?
So basically, just exactly what you just said. It was extremely linear. Now, I say this what didn't work for you because I'm just saying this is why this is not a 5-star movie, because it's so linear. There's no plot twists. It's like you get exactly what you think you're gonna get. They lined it out in the prologue, basically.
The closest thing to a twist is that Cabby has the tape.
Yeah,
that they think they have to
he
go
gives
get.
a fake tape. He gives the fake tape. But you knew that Snake was testing the president whether he was going to give him the real tape or not when he asked him the question.
That's true.
So I mean, it was just really simple. That's fun, but it's not great movie making.
Right.
I did think that there were some cheesy ass 80s moments in there where there was some expert level cheap movie making done, like when they cut away from the plane crash and show the digital representation in pixels. But there was also some really low rent movie making that didn't get cut away from, like the cut in half car that was lame.
I think that's on purpose.
You think they were just trying to be funny?
Because it's literally in half.
Yeah. I mean, and man, there was just some really...
But there is, I know what you mean.
There's just a lot of cheesiness going on.
The thing you said earlier about when the Secret Service guy is trying to beat down the door, and he couldn't look less interested in that, in beating that door down.
And I think that some of the side characters, whereas I do like that this movie is like a D&D game or a Cyberpunk game or whatever, where you're going through and you meet funny, memorable guy here and there. I almost think that some of them are just too schlocky. Like it's just like Cabby. Yeah, he's just too.
It's too much.
It's too much. It's overdone. It's not like it's not like this is like Fifth Element cab driver who's this kind of hard-boiled guy who you kind of understand why he has a bad attitude and stuff. It's just like he's a jolly weird cabbie who goes to the cabaret and has a weird attitude about everything. It's just like these characters don't make sense in the setting.
Yeah.
Like this is an anarchy might makes right prison. This guy would not exist.
I mean, he does chuck Molotov cocktails, like, you know, basically that's how he throws down. Like Cabby is willing to kill.
Sure. So I just think that some of those side characters were ill-conceived. So
interesting.
I guess what I could say for my what didn't work is there is no glaring flaw that made me say this is terrible. But there was a lot of groans here and there in this movie, and they weren't groans of laughter. It was just kind of a womp womp. Okay. There's one too many of those. Okay. So what about you? What didn't work?
So to me, I always, as a kid, I found this movie too slow to watch. I thought this was a dad movie.
The extended cut.
The extended cut is excruciating.
Sure.
Like it doesn't need those extra scenes. They don't add anything. They just make it longer.
Yeah.
And so somehow, even at an hour and a half, sometimes the movie drags. Like you're like,
there are moments like when he's walking down the street, or like when he finds the president's capsule, and then he walks over, he turns a chair around and he sits in the chair and just broods.
Yeah.
And I was like,
you're like, whoa, we're not in a hurry. For someone that's going to expire in 22 hours, he has time to think, have a think. Yeah. Or like say like the whole like excursion where they drive down Broadway.
Yeah.
It's
pointless.
It's not exciting. Like it'd be one thing if they were in peril, but it's a slow motion. Like he drives, 12 miles an hour.
Yeah. It's like a 5 mile an hour car crash.
Whacking the shins of people that get too close.
And they're like, ow.
Yeah. And it's like, it's very slow. It's never in a hurry until like the last 15 minutes. This movie is never in a hurry. And so like for me, that's the thing that I have a hard time with. It's like, let's pick it up a little bit, guys. We're on a clock. We have a literal ticking clock. Let's act like it.
I'm with you there.
Okay.
Is that it? That was your only criticism?
That's my only criticism.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I get bored. Like, I like listening to the score with the little like sound bites from the movie more than I like watching the movie.
Oh man.
Like those moments, like
that's rough.
I picture all the scenes. It's like watching the greatest hits of the movie, like all your favorite moments, and then thinking about it. But there's never the slow motion drive down Broadway.
Yeah.
So that so we get to the tough part, rating it.
So when I was thinking about this movie, I was thinking about my previous movies' ratings and various things that I've done, and we have a differing opinion on how we rate. In my opinion, it's a threshold. There is no rounding. Right. All rounding is down. Basically,
okay, all rounding is down.
3.0 to 3.9 is a 3. 4.0 to 4.9 is a 4. In order to be a 4, you have to be fully a 4.
Right.
A 3.9 is not a 4.
Yeah.
So in that case, this is a 3-star movie.
Yeah.
It's not as good as other 4-star movies.
No. And so of the 10 movies, this is the lowest rated of them. It's got a 3.6 out of 5 on Letterboxd. And I think that's fair. And I think it's probably...
I'll 3.6 is 7.2 on a 10-point scale, which is right with IMDb, which is 7.1 on a 10-point scale, and an 85% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is a little bit rose-tinted glasses.
Yeah. I think this is a 3-star movie with 4 stars worth of influence.
Sure.
It was very influential in the genre, and I understand why, and I enjoy the movie.
Yeah.
But it's a 3-star movie.
After watching the movie, I thought to myself, that wasn't great, but it was fun.
Yeah.
I would rather watch this than an Avengers movie. I'd rather watch Warriors than an Avengers movie. These older movies that have that kind of influence and charm, there's something to them. If you haven't seen them, divers, it's worth checking them out because you'll see shades of other movies.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
That you've already seen.
Yeah.
Like, so that's where they got it.
So I made like a little list of things just watching this movie that I could tell were influenced by it. Like, so the first thing, the Arkham City games, the whole premise of those games is the premise of this movie. It's we walled off, this city's just too bad. And so we walled it off and made it a prison. And if you're still in there, you're fucked. And if you're fucked, we're sending you there. And so it's like that. The Metal Gear, which we talked about, aesthetically, like the fonts that the all around like the police offices and the prison and everything, it looks very close to the same font they use in RoboCop.
Yeah, it looks really cool.
Yeah, and I think this inspired the modern version of the Suicide Squad with the whole idea they put a bomb in your neck and then send you off to do these suicide missions. That's not the Silver Age Suicide Squad comic. That was not the premise. They were like, like Korea era soldiers that did they're more like, I don't know, not Dirty Dozen, because that is very much like the Suicide Squad, but they were the guys that did the really dangerous stuff.
Sure.
And so they're called the Suicide Squad. But the 80s version that the movies and cartoons are based on, I think they come from this. That's where the concept comes from. We put a bomb in your neck and send you to do things that no sane person would do.
And if you don't do it, you die.
Yeah. And so I just think the influence of this movie is way better than is way bigger than the quality of the movie itself is.
I can get behind that.
Yeah. Well, shall we take a break and then get to our final segment?
Sounds good to me.
Welcome back, divers. It's time for our final segment, the one where I ask Dave, what are you into right now?
Well, I started playing a new game. Not a video game, a tabletop miniatures game.
Ooh, I saw it upstairs.
Yeah, you saw it on the table. It's a Song of Ice and Fire miniatures game by
what is that? I've never heard of it.
Yeah, it's called. It's by the company Cool Mini or Not. They're a pretty good game company that makes kind of smaller games. And it's a wargaming game where you play a house or a faction in Westeros. There's many of the great houses like Stark, Lannister, Greyjoy, etc. But then there's also like the Free Folk, the Night's Watch, and mercenaries. Yeah, the Free Folk are pretty neat. They get like giants and mammoths and stuff.
And do they have all like the
Thens
like
and
the Hornfoots and
the various stuff? Yeah, very cool. And all the named characters from the books are in the game, so you can have them as commanders or unit attachments, basically like unit leaders or independent characters. And so it's really cool. It's different from a game like Warhammer or other big war games, because this plays kind of like it plays almost like a hybrid war game board game.
Oh, okay.
First of all, you can open the box and play it out of the box. You don't have to assemble anything. No glue, no paint, nothing.
That's really cool.
Every model comes cast in plastic, fully assembled, and it's in faction-coded colored plastic.
Oh, okay.
So, like, I play Starks, and so they're kind of a pale blue, like almost whitish. And then, like,
shouldn't it be gray?
Well, their heraldry is a gray wolf on a white field.
Right. And I think, hold on, I think we've gotten this far into without saying the word Game of Thrones. A Song of Ice and Fire is the book series that the TV show A Game of Thrones is based on, if you don't know that.
Yeah, and so this company owns the rights to the book series. And so all the characters and all the box art, all of it's original. None of it is from the show. It's all based on the books, and they've put a fair amount of money into this because there's really good art and really good sculpts on the models. And so, like, you just pull them out of the box and you can play them. And it has a couple of things that wargaming does not normally have.
Okay.
So you have your units on the field, and you're going to field like maybe 5 units max. So it's not as big as a war game. And then you also have a thing on the side of the board called the non-combat unit system, which is basically there's like a small council table.
Oh, okay.
And you play support units. You buy them in your list for points. So like I play Starks, so I almost always buy Caitlyn because I really like her effect.
Okay.
And I sometimes buy Sansa, and I sometimes buy Eddard. There's a couple versions of various characters. For example, you can play Eddard, Hand of the King, from the era when he was Robert's hand, and in that case, he's a non-combat unit that affects. Or you can play Eddard, Lord of Winterfell, before he becomes hand, in which case you play him on the board as a commander. So there's different versions. But you can't play 2 Eddards. You have to one or the other. So there is there's a story component that you're balancing. Somewhat. I mean, you can do some things that are a little illogical by the books, but you can never have some things are bound by the story. For example, Syrio Forel is an available character for Starks, but you may only field Syrio if you're using Arya. So if you don't field Arya, you can't use Syrio.
Because he's her dance instructor.
Yes. And he never appears in a scene without her.
Right.
So yeah, and it's pretty cool. In the small council board, the non-combat thing, you basically play back and forth. It's not like I play all my guys all my turn and then you play all yours. We go 1, 1, 1, 1, like a chess match. I move one piece, you move one piece, And so when it's my turn, if I want to play a non-combat, I can be like, oh, I'm going to take the treasury this turn, and it represents me getting an influx of funds, and I get to then impact the board in a certain way. And certain characters, the board itself has flat effects that just happen, and then certain characters have special additional effects when you play them and do certain things. Like Tyrion does really great things if you control communication, the letters and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really adds another dimension to the game and makes it really fun, and it makes it super interesting on how you build your list. Like for example, I have a list that I play where Great John Umber is my commander, and I play just really aggro Stark stuff, like the Umber Berserkers and Umber Great Axemen and stuff. But then I also have another list, which I just call my thick boys, that feel like Tully Shields and Tully Cavalry, because they swore to the king in the north.
Right.
So they fall under the Starks, and play it kind of slow and grind.
Okay.
And so it's a really fun game for war gamers. You take to it instantly.
Yeah.
If you're not a war gamer, but you've played some board games that are a little complicated, like if you've played Axis and Allies, this is not as complicated as Axis and Allies.
So, but what about Risk? Because that's a pretty simple.
I'd say it's maybe slightly more complicated.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell just from you describing it that
it's more fun too.
Okay. More fun than Risk.
Well, and one of the cool things about it is every army has a starter box, and the starter box has everything you need. Like it has the terrain cards you can put down on the board. It has unit cards for all your units, and it has a whole army. It's not like just one or two things. And so you can field a full army just from your starter box, and on Amazon they're like $75 for a whole army.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. The affordability. I mean, that might sound like a lot of money, but that's way less Warhammer minis.
Yeah, in Warhammer, no joke, I have tanks that cost $105 for one tank.
Yeah,
and
it's a very expensive game.
And so this game is hella budget. I could buy everything Stark, one of every Stark unit, and spend less than $2. Yeah. And you can, that's legit. And you have the option, like say at a place like Guardian Games or even just on eBay or whatever, getting used stuff. Yeah. I bought mine at a lot of my Stark stuff at a shop. They actually have a website you can buy everything or trade in. It's called Mind Taker Miniatures.
Okay.
If you go to their website, you can buy all their stuff, but I traded in a whole bunch of old war game stuff that I don't play with anymore, and I got like hundreds of dollars back, and I bought a whole bunch of Song of Ice and Fire from them at like half retail. And so it was, I've got my collection for pretty cheap. And since it's a game where you don't have to paint stuff to play it, buying it used, it's not like all gnarly, nasty painted. It's just in the box.
So none of your used stuff was painted.
No.
So is that not common that people don't paint these miniatures?
I've seen a lot of people do paint them, but I've seen a lot of people not. I call it 50-50.
Okay, interesting.
Anyway, so that's the new game that I've been playing, and I played it a lot more than Warhammer lately.
Okay,
just because it's faster, it's more fun. Oh yeah, one other thing for cost. The rules are always free. It's all on the app from the game company. Everything is always updated and it's always free. You never have to pay for an update.
So never buying books and stuff.
I had no books owned. It's all on the app and all on the website. So everything is free, and that is huge. Whereas Games Workshop makes you buy that shit $50 a book.
Oh yeah, they monetize everything. Yeah, it's
not that I dislike Warhammer. I just like having this cheap ass game that's fun.
Where do you
an IP that I love?
Yeah, well, yeah, and we've gone deep into this where we played the tabletop RPG for the Song of Ice and Fire.
I've been brewing another campaign in my back.
Oh yeah,
I've been writing one.
You always have 3 campaigns at minimum on deck for
I'm a fiend, man. And I'm re-listening to all the audiobooks. I'm halfway through Storm of Swords.
Oh wow.
So I'm halfway through the whole series, or the main book.
Did you do the supplementary books again?
I'm doing those at the end.
Oh,
I started with Night of the Seven Kingdoms. I did all of that first.
Oh,
the Duncan Egg collection.
I've actually never...
Dude, it's good. Like, I love Sir Duncan. He's the best.
Is it Roy Tretrice reading him too?
I don't remember.
Okay. Interesting. All right. Well, I need to get to
It's worth the credit.
It's worth the credit, for sure.
It's highly worth it. All right, so what about you? What are you into right now?
Mine's going to be an audiobook, but I'm going to first piggyback on an older one of yours because while we're driving back from Colorado, I started Jackson Crawford's unit on Norse mythology.
Oh, nice.
And
I listened to that whole thing.
Yeah, so I jammed that basically from, I don't know, somewhere in Wyoming all the way back to Washington, and then it took a couple more days at work to finish it off.
Yeah.
But it's really good. I prefer that to his just straight up translations.
Yeah. Because he explains it and he puts it in context.
Yeah, and I've ended up watching a bunch of his YouTube videos too. Like, I would love to just have a beer and talk to that guy. Like, I don't think I think he's a little too married to just what's in the text.
Yeah, he's very much a purist.
Yeah, to the point where, he won't be on record talking about anything that wasn't literally carved in stone.
Yeah, but I think if you had a beer with him, he'd be willing to speculate.
Because he gets into stuff in some of his YouTube videos where it's he's much more he's up on everything. He's a scholar on this subject. Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot of stuff that's this is a folk tale from Germany or whatever, and it probably is in reference to this. And he knows all that stuff, but when he's talking Norse mythology, it's just in the Prose Edda, the Poetic Edda, and History of the
Codex
Danes.
Regis, and stuff like that.
He really is the only things that are official are the things that are in just these few manuscripts from
verifiably medieval manuscripts.
Yeah. And so, of course, that's how you want scholars to be, right? You don't want them playing loose with theories.
Yeah, because you can go on the internet and you can find all sorts of loosey-goosey things, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's this is just a village folk tale from this place, and
that whole thing about how Freya has, takes half of the dead who don't go to Valhalla, and then Jackson Crawford talks about how that's just kind of nonsense because it's speculated that Freya and Frey are
Freya and Frigg
are the same person, and so when you're in Valhalla, you're also in Freya's home.
Yeah, and it's Anyways, if you're interested in Norse mythology, Dave already recommended this. Unfortunately, as of July 31st, it's no longer included in your
your subscription,
your Audible subscription.
Ooh.
But it's worth the credit. It's a college course, man. So it's worth a credit. It was just happened to be free when I listened to it.
I if you like that and you are into that, also the Children of Ash and Elm is also worth a credit.
That's not him.
It's not him.
He recommends that.
He recommends that book.
Yeah.
It's a notable British scholar.
I really wanted to hear what he thought about Neil Gaiman's Norse mythology book. He said he has good stuff to say about American Gods. And he said, he was real skeptical of it, but he's ended up reading that book multiple times.
Well, it's because the Norse people thought of their gods as these interesting caricatures of gods, and that's how American Gods presents them.
Yeah, he says Mr. Wednesday is the best portrayal of Odin in pop culture. Mm-hmm. And that's true.
I agree. Every time you see Odin in one of the sagas, he shows up as a mysterious traveler who doesn't identify himself, and he says some cryptic shit, and then he bounces.
Yeah, it's the funniest thing. He shows up. He looks exactly it's a one-eyed man, looks like Gandalf with an eye patch, and shows up and is gives a bunch of names that have to be.
What's your name? Evildoer. Really?
Yeah.
Your name's Evildoer?
Grimnir.
Far Traveler.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyways.
We like Odin.
I like Norse mythology a lot. But the thing I was going to recommend is another audiobook that I just recently finished, and it is All of the Marvels: A Journey to the End of the Biggest Story Ever Told by Douglas Wolk. It is Douglas Wolk read 27,000 plus Marvel comics. He read everything from 1961 up to 2017, everything that was published. And beyond. He's continued doing it since then, but the book is just... Actually, the book kind of deals with stuff going all the way up to 2019. And he read 60 years worth of Marvel comics, and it's sort of like... It's an academic approach of this, but it is also kind of like, you know, a personal story. It's just really... It's not just... And, you know, in this year, this comic came out. It's not that sort of thing. It's a zoomed out and zoomed in looking at Marvel Comics as though it is one continuous work of fiction that is all the same story, just told by many, many different people. And I kept, you know, like seeing good reviews of it. It just won the Eisner Award for the best comic related book. Just this last weekend. And I kept seeing good reviews and people on podcasts recommending it. And I was just like, well, that kind of seems like a boring book. Like, I know everything. And so what's it gonna tell me? But it was it's a fascinating book. And it's very personal and actually like emotional by the end. He gets into stuff with his relationship with his son and how they bonded together reading comics, and I was like, I'm getting moved. Like this is touching me in the heart.
Made me feel real feelings.
Yeah, I thought that this was just a nerdy book about comics, but it made me have feelings. And I think even like you don't have to be me, like a Wednesday Warrior avid comic book reader, to get something out of this book. I think it's, if you're interested on an academic or just like a socio level about comics and their effect on the popular culture and how the culture they were created in affected them.
Does it cover movies?
Not really. It's really just about the comics. I mean,
okay.
There is an in-between chapter where he talks about the history of comic book movies and Marvel movies in particular, and all of the sort of aborted movies and how they went from being a company that basically couldn't get a successful movie, like anything beyond like a direct-to-video Dolph Lundgren Punisher movie made, to, for better or worse, dominating like the whole movie world to where
a Green Lantern movie that had Ryan Reynolds in it.
Well, it's like now there's only comic book movies.
I know.
Like they've become so dominant. They've destroyed all other movies. They're like the Borg or something to cross my nerdy references.
They even make B-tier crap squad movies, like,
but
for teams nobody cares about,
like Guardians of the Galaxy
or Eternals. Like, it's like, come on.
Eternals is an interesting movie, but Guardians of the Galaxy, I went into that thinking no one cares about the Guardians of the Galaxy. I've never enjoyed a Guardians of the Galaxy.
Why don't we have an
comic.
Alpha Flight movie?
Why not? I mean, if you want to take a squad of B-list superheroes that make an interesting movie, why can Canada's premier super team? Oh, you know why? Because they're tied up in all the X-Men stuff. So not till 2025. Anyways, that's what I got. Call to action.
Subscribe to us on your favorite podcatcher, as well as YouTube, Spotify, and Audible. Don't forget to leave us a review. 5-star review costs you nothing, but means everything to us.
New episodes of Nick and Dave Deep Dive the Metaverse drop the 1st and 15th of every month. You can find us on all social media platforms across the Metaverse as Deep Dive the Meta. We are on Twitter. I pretty much look at that every day, so that's the best place to get at us. And we're on Instagram, but we're still on Pinterest, which no one likes.
What about Tumblr?
We're on Tumblr, but I haven't updated it in, a year.
No more Tumblr.
Yeah.
Well, I guess this is really goodbye.
Don't say goodbye. Say good journey.